Chapter 71. Gonsong Bai was a responsible doctor. This time, the situation was a bit special, so he might allow her to make an exception. But in the future, she would definitely not be able to treat people casually. After all, she didn't have a medical license. If something went wrong, no one would be able to bear the consequences. It would also affect her life. Jing Yunjiao took the initiative to express her attitude. Gonsong Bai was also relieved and didn't reprimand her. Gan Jinshun, who was at the side, didn't believe her. You really saved someone? He and Suchu had been in contact with medicine since they were young. Even now, they still didn't have the qualifications to treat people. At most, they knew some medicinal herbs and knew some pharmacology. They never dared to use those prescriptions casually. Jing Yunjiao, a layman, actually dared to? Jing Yunjiao saw Gan Jinshun's hostility. If it was someone else, she wouldn't even care, but Grandpa Gan had helped her a lot. For Grandpa's sake, Jing Yunjiao didn't want to bicker with him. How can this be fake? Xiao Haiqing's face was full of pride. I know you. You're Gan Jinshun, one of the top 10 school hunks in school. I heard that your personality was the most gentle and knew medicine. But now, the rumors don't seem to be true. Gan Jinshun's face froze and was a bit embarrassed. After Xiao Haiqing finished speaking, Jing Yunjiao pulled her and said, Don't mind her. Haiqing said what she wanted to say. Grandpa, we'll leave first. Gan Jinshun was even more annoyed. She said what she wanted to say. Did that mean that she felt that what the girl said was the truth? Jing Yunjiao didn't care about him. She said goodbye to Gonsong Bai, and the two left in a flash. Grandpa, what prescription did she use to save someone? Gan Jinshun curled his lips and asked sullenly. Gonsong Bai looked at his grandson's appearance and couldn't help but laugh. He even felt a bit of schadenfreude. This grandson of his usually didn't listen to anyone. On the surface, he looked warm and easy to get along with, but in reality, he was a thorn in the side and arrogant. He had a problem with Jing Yunjiao, but Jing Yunjiao ignored him. He was afraid that he would not be able to sleep for a few days. After a dry cough, Gonsong Bai stroked his beard and said, Speaking of that prescription, it's quite simple, but in a moment of desperation, others may not be able to think of it. Moreover, that little girl's forehead was bleeding nonstop at that time. Most doctors would overlook the injury in her eyes. Yunjiao, that girl, is a good material for studying medicine. You're living under the same roof as her, so you'll have more chances to interact with her. In the future, you must consult her more. Gonsong Bai purposely added. As soon as he said this, Gan Jinshun's face turned red and he turned to leave. Gonsong Bai wasn't annoyed. He chuckled in the back. In the past, it was only his grandson who made others angry. Today's situation was really rare. Jing Yunjiao and Xiao Haiqing did not go far. They found a coffee shop near the hospital and sat down. Through the glass window, they could see the entrance of the hospital. Originally, Xiao Haiqing didn't understand, but when the scene was in front of her eyes, she immediately understood. She was looking for Yiqing. Although Yiqing escaped, she caused such a big mess. Most of the time, she would be hesitant to appear near the hospital. What if she doesn't come? Xiao Haiqing was also a bit worried. She had never seen someone more selfish than Yiqing, letting her own mother take care of everything while she silently hid. She was only 15 years old. In a few more years, wouldn't her personality be even scarier? The Yi family went bankrupt. The money she had was from the hotel. This amount of money is not enough for her. How could she not ask Auntie Yi for some? Anyways, there's nothing to do right now. Let's wait and see. Jing Yunjiao stirred her cup, and the bitter taste of coffee hit her face. Chapter 72. Xiao Haiqing felt that Jing Yunjiao was too steady. No matter what the situation was, he was always able to control his emotions well. Take today's incident as an example. All the students were panicking except for her. Just now, when he was dealing with Jiang Xia, although he looked angry, he still had a lot of things to consider. If he was really angry, he might have even crippled Jiang Xia. He wouldn't have been able to accurately calculate the situation and escape unscathed after beating someone up. Oh right, who did you learn your medical skills from? That grandpa from before? Xiao Haiqing's hand paused as she suddenly remembered. Although they didn't know each other before, Jing Yunjiao had never revealed the fact that he knew medical skills. Today's method was too shocking. No, I learned it from a mysterious old man that I know. Jing Yunjiao's words weren't considered a lie. The medical skills in her space and the jade were all left behind by that old senior, Jing He. Even though he was no longer around, she still inherited his medical skills. She couldn't just say that it was taught by someone else. When Xiao Haiqing heard this, she almost spat out the coffee in her mouth. Mysterious old man? Don't tell me that there's still a legendary hidden expert in this era? I didn't study much. Don't lie to me. Xiao Haiqing didn't believe him at all. How could there be such a mysterious person in this world? Jing Yunjiao shrugged his shoulders. Anyway, it's true. My martial arts and medical skills were all taught by him. Xiao Haiqing was suspicious, but she felt that Jing Yunjiao wouldn't lie to her. She stared at Jing Yunjiao for a long time. Then, are your medical skills very high now? Xiao Haiqing asked. Jing Yunjiao shook his head. He taught me a lot of things. I spend a lot of time memorizing them every day. Right now, I only have some basic knowledge. However, if I encounter an illness that isn't too troublesome, I can still think of a prescription. There were a total of 99 pieces of spirit jade. So far, she had only absorbed one piece, and one piece contained thousands of books. Because the spirit jade was already in her mind, she only needed to recall and understand it once, and then she would be able to thoroughly master it. Coupled with the space's 5 times speed, her growth every day was very astonishing, almost equivalent to rapid progress. However, there were still a lot of unknowns, so she didn't want to exaggerate. Xiao Haiqing's eyes lit up. Yunjiao, you're really my idol. In the future, if I have a headache or fever, I'll have to rely on you. Xiao Haiqing picked up her coffee cup and toasted with Jing Yunjiao. Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but smile bitterly in her heart. Speaking of idols, Xiao Haiqing was the person she admired the most in her previous life. The two of them chatted for a while as the sun set outside the window. They only saw Mother Yi hurriedly walk out of the hospital. The two of them immediately looked around, only to see Yi Qing in a corner of the hospital with a face full of panic. Seeing Mother Yi, she nervously looked around, but didn't know what to say. Mother Ye's expression seemed to be a bit angry, as if she was arguing. Not long after, Yi Qing began to look for something on Mother Ye's face. Mother Ye's eyes were filled with tears, and in a fit of anger, she slapped her. Seeing this scene, the two of them immediately paid the money and chased after her. Jing Yunjiao was too lazy to care about Yi Qing's family matters, but this time young Tiantian's injury was indeed partly because of her, so she couldn't just ignore it. Mom, how could you hit me? Even my dad didn't hit me. Yi Qing's voice was trembling, but more than that, she was angry and confused. Mother Yi cried miserably. Daughter, why don't you come with Mom and apologize? Tian, that girl is fine. As long as you sincerely apologize, they won't blame you. At most, you'll just have to pay some money. Even if Mom dies of exhaustion, I'll still make up for it. You're willing to compensate others? Why won't you give me the money? Yi Qing covered her face and also cried. Chapter 73. Yi Qing cried miserably, but it didn't look like she did anything wrong. Instead, it looked like she was wronged. My classmates definitely know that our family is bankrupt. If I go back and apologize, even if they don't do anything to me, I won't be able to take it. In the future, when I walk in school, they will point at me, and I will be worse than those poor kids. Mom, I don't want to lose face. Give me some money. At worst, I'll go far away and never come back. If you don't want me to leave, then let me transfer schools. With so much debt, when can we pay it all back? Let's go. We don't need to pay it back anymore. Yi Qing said while crying. Just thinking about how her birthday party was ruined, she felt like the sky was falling down. Young Tian became like that. What will her classmates think of her? Mother Yi looked at her daughter with tears in her eyes. There was a strange feeling. What was her daughter like before? At home, she was gentle and sensible like a princess. When did she become a demon? Demon? Mother Yi was shocked. She didn't know why she thought of her daughter like that. Mother Ye's expression gradually became cold. How can you say something like that? What did I teach you since you were young? You have to take responsibility for your mistakes. So what if you have a lot of debt? Mom never asked you to earn money to pay it back. You continue to be a good student, get into a good university, and live happily for the rest of your life. Those debts have nothing to do with you. How does it have nothing to do with me? Yi Qing immediately roared. In the past, our neighbors looked at us with envy. What about now? They pity me. I hate that kind of pity. It's so embarrassing. Mother Ye's whole body shook. She suddenly felt all the strength in her body disappear. Why was she so insistent? Her husband was unreliable, so after receiving a blow, he simply gave up. Her daughter was also like this? Then what was the use of her hard work? Her body was on the verge of collapse, but Yi Qing still didn't repent. She reached out and grabbed her clothes. Mom, just tell me, where is our family's money? Where is it hidden? She was so rich before, so it's impossible that she didn't have anything left now. It must have been hidden away in fear of others finding out. Mother Yi only felt dizzy. Her sight focused, and her daughter's face made her feel fear. The moment she fell, Jing Yunzhao helped her up. Jing Yunzhao, why are you here? Who told you to come over? Yi Qing saw the person who came. Not only did she not notice Yi Mu's situation, she even became worse. Jing Yunzhao now even more clearly understood why such a strong person like Auntie Yi could be forced to commit suicide in the previous life. Yi Qing normally pretended to be quiet and sensible, but in reality, she had inherited her father's bad habits. Unable to take a blow, she even became selfish due to years of spoiling. It's none of my business if you want to run away from home, but you can't do this to Aunt Yi, Jing Yunzhao said coldly. Who do you think you are? It's nothing. It's just that she still owes me some money. As a debtor, I have to ensure that she won't be unable to repay the debt because of being oppressed and hurt by others. Is there a problem? After all, it was a matter between the mother and daughter. Jing Yunzhao couldn't intervene, so he casually found an excuse. Although it was said to be a debt, in fact, Yimu only owed her 1,000 yuan. She was not prepared to take the money. But when Yi Qing heard this, her face went pale. Because her family owed too much money, she didn't even think about why Jing Yunzhao would become one of the creditors. Chapter 74. Yi Qing only felt that he had lost all face, especially in front of the people he hated. He felt that his humble self-esteem had nowhere to hide. It was exposed and dissipated completely. Yimu was still a bit dizzy, but slowly recovered. Disappointment and despair coexisted in her eyes, and her will was about to be worn out. Going from being rich to being in debt was something she herself couldn't accept. But before, she had a reason to persevere. But now, the reason was a bit far-fetched. What the hell do you want to do? Jing Yunzhao, why do you have to go against me? Yi Qing angrily said. Jing Yunzhao looked at her sarcastically. Don't you feel that you're lying? I've never offended you. It's you who listed me as your imaginary enemy and targeted me everywhere, right? I've already been kind to you, but you still ask me what I want to do? Don't you think it's funny? You reach out to your parents for money, but have you ever thought about how much you owe them? You think it's shameful, but in my opinion, having a daughter like you is the most shameful thing in your mother's life. Jing Yunzhao wasn't a saint and didn't think of using moral coercion. She just felt that a person should have the most basic conscience. Living in the Qiao family for 15 years, Yi Qing was polite and alienated to her. It could be said that what Yi Qing had was something she couldn't get, which was why she was so angry. Yimu waved her hand. My adopted daughter didn't teach. She deserved it. No one deserved it. Auntie Yi, she's hurting people now, but not to the point of killing people. But if you let her be, no one can imagine what will happen in the future. You're her biological mother, not her nanny slave. Today you let her ignore you. Then you have to be prepared for her to be trampled on because of her mistakes in the future. Speaking of which, if you still think it's all your fault, then it's not strange that your daughter is like this. Jing Yunzhao's voice was simple and cold, and said with cold eyes, what parents give their children, then that's what they get in return. Yimu always felt that it was her fault for not teaching Yi Qing well, so Yi Qing naturally felt that she was the one who was wronged. Jing Yunzhao's voice, word by word, hammered Mama Ye's heart fiercely. If it was in the past, she would have just listened to these words and let it go. However, she had suffered too many blows recently, especially at this moment. So even if it was just a few simple words from Jing Yunzhao, it was as if they were engraved in her mind, unable to be erased. Her expression slowly became clear. Yiqing was only 15 years old. She hadn't even lived through half of her life. She couldn't let her be so selfish for the next 50 years. Pushing away Jing Yunzhao's hand, Yimu's face was a little serious. You go with me to apologize? Yiqing glared. I'm not going. Slap. In an instant, Mother Yi slapped him. You have to go even if you don't want to. Mom, I hate you. I want to leave this damned place. Don't ever think of seeing me again. Yiqing threatened. Then leave. It's good that you left. I'll divorce your father immediately and remarry. My life will still be bright in the future. Without a burden like you, I'll live a better life than anyone else. Also, you stole the family's money. As soon as you leave, I'll immediately go to the police and let the police teach you how to behave. Yimu shouted herself hoarse. When she just opened her mouth, there was still some panic expression, but it was instantly hidden. Especially when she saw Yiqing's scared expression, Yimu felt that she did the right thing. Jing Yunzhao also had a face of surprise. He didn't think that Auntie Yi would make up her mind so quickly. However, it was also true that a strong woman like her would be able to survive regardless of everything if she was given a reason. Chapter 75. After Mother Yi finished speaking, her originally weak steps became firm. She took a big stride forward, reached out, and grabbed the bag in Yiqing's arms. Without saying anything, she took out all the money inside. Over 1,000 yuan, for their family now, is not a small number. Little classmate, thank you for helping me out at the hospital today. This is the money Auntie owes you. I'll return it to you. Mother Yi took out 1,000 yuan and stuffed it into Jing Yunzhao's pocket. Yiqing's eyes were wide open, unable to believe this scene. Mom, are you crazy? Why are you giving her money? Pa. This time, Mother Ye's slap was even more straightforward than before. Even Xiao Haiqing on the side was gritting her teeth, feeling the pain on her face, but other than pain, it was even more satisfying. Yiqing was spoiled rotten before, and still thought that she was a rich missy. She didn't understand her own mother at all, and couldn't see the truth. Now that Mother Yi is so powerful, Yiqing probably won't be able to make any waves in the future. However, Mother Yi still loves her daughter, so wasn't she forced to be so strict? She was probably also worried that Yiqing would be like what Jing Yunzhao said, getting worse and worse and being abused by others. After Mother Yi finished slapping, seeing Yiqing's red eyes, she directly scolded. You still have the face to cry. Come with me to the hospital to apologize. If you don't have any sincerity, then don't eat when you get home. Go kneel and reflect. Mother Ye's mood was more complicated than anyone else's. Did she feel pain? Pain. But she also hated her daughter's incomprehension, hated her husband's cowardice and uselessness, so she had to change. Only to see her grab Yiqing's arm, pull her to her side, and drag her to the hospital step by step. Yiqing kept saying that she wanted to run away from home, but in reality, if she didn't have tens of thousands of yuan, she wouldn't dare. And now, even the little money she had left on her was taken away. She had no confidence, and suddenly felt that her life was over. Under Mother Ye's unyielding force, Yiqing was dragged to Yang Tiantian's bed. At this time, Yang Tiantian had already woken up. Seeing Yiqing, she directly turned her head. Instead, she said to Jing Yunzhao, I'm sorry before helping Yiqing go against you. Also, thank you for helping me. Jing Yunzhao just pulled the corner of his mouth into a smile and considered this chapter over. Apologize. Mother Yi was behind Yiqing and actually kicked her calf. How could Yiqing have thought that her mother would do this? In a moment of carelessness, he knelt down with a pong sound. He was in so much pain that tears were about to fall. His face was pale, and he felt that he had lost all his face. She actually knelt down to Yang Tiantian. With so many people watching, they must be laughing at her in their hearts. She struggled to get up, but unfortunately, Auntie Yi twisted her neck from behind. Apologize quickly. In the blink of an eye, the skin under Yimu's hand was twisted out of a red mark. Mom, let go. I'm in so much pain. Yiqing suddenly cried in pain and howled. But the more she cried out in pain, the more Yimu used force. You have to apologize if you do something wrong. If you can't open your mouth, then kneel here today, tomorrow, or in the future. When the young parents heard this, they were also shocked. They always felt that this Yi family woman had changed a bit after going out for a while. Compared to before, she looked a bit more fierce. Especially when she mentioned her daughter, she was mostly helpless. But now, she was vicious and strict. Yimu had made up her mind. Not long after, Yiqing couldn't take it anymore. I was wrong, okay? Chapter 76. Yang Tian also wasn't a heartless girl. Seeing Yiqing admit her mistake, she didn't care if she was sincere or not. But for Auntie Ye's sake, she didn't argue with her. After Yang Tiantian's condition stabilized, Jing Yuanzhao also returned home. But before he left, he went to the hotel to pay for the meal. And on the other side, Auntie Yi was also responsible enough. She used the rest of the money to buy some supplements. As long as Yiqing opened her mouth to say something immature, she would scold and beat her. When she returned home at night, Yiqing's face was already swollen like a pig's head. Go back to school on Monday. After you go back, be a good boy. Don't cause trouble, don't offend anyone. If you can't do it, then don't go home and starve to death on the streets. Auntie Yi angrily scolded, then looked at the messy house. In the future, when I go out to work, you need to do these chores well. Cooking and washing clothes, you can't fall behind. Under Yiqing's shocked and wronged eyes, Auntie Yi rushed back into the house and dragged out the man who was sleeping on the bed. You don't want to go out and find a job, right? Then don't eat anymore. After Sunday, go get a divorce. Before, even if Auntie Yi wasn't gentle, her words were still polite. Even at home, she had the appearance of a virtuous wife. But now, she was more like a shrew. However, this appearance was clearly much better than the gentle admonishment from before. Yiqing's father was half awake from his drunken stupor. He stared at the woman who had shared the bed with him for more than 10 years and thought he was seeing things. Of course, he didn't want to get a divorce. The house he was living in was a dowry given to him by Auntie Ye's family many years ago. It was the only place for the three of them to stay, and his villa had already been sold to pay off the debt. If he got a divorce, then he would definitely end up on the streets. Auntie Yi also didn't really expect this man to find a job, but she didn't want to see him drunk every day. And when Yiqing saw her most respected father being scolded, her courage became a bit smaller. Under her mother's pressure, she washed and cooked for the first time in her life. What she didn't know was that this was just the beginning. From that day onwards, her gentle mother seemed to have completely disappeared without a trace, replaced by a strong and ruthless woman. She was afraid of embarrassing herself in school, so this woman forced her to do it. She was no longer wearing beautiful and lovely clothes. She was only wearing ordinary street stall goods. When she went out, she no longer took a taxi to show her face. Instead, she rode a worn-out bicycle. Clang, 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 sounds made her unable to sleep at night. Jing Yunzhao naturally wouldn't pay attention to what Yiqing's life was like. It was just that on Monday, when she saw her classmates keeping a respectful distance from Yiqing, as well as her silent attitude, that was why she was surprised. Moreover, Yiqing seemed to have received Auntie Ye's special education. Every time he saw her, he immediately avoided her like she was a snake or scorpion, which saved him the trouble of tit for tat from before. Her life suddenly became very quiet. Every day, she would go back and forth between the 2:00 and 1:00. On Saturday, she would go to Uncle Sue's place as promised. Her life was very fulfilling. The only other place that was different was Ganjinshan. Ever since he met her at the hospital, his eyes looking at her became more and more suspicious. Every time he saw Suchu getting close to her, he would immediately move Suchu away. Like a mother hen protecting her young, Jing Yunzhao found it a bit funny. 10 days later, the small apartment that the three lived in was neatly tidied up and welcomed the examiner, Grandpa Gon. The once-a-month medical exam time was here. Chapter 77. Normally, Gonsong Bai wouldn't even come to the apartment where the three of them lived. Now that he arrived, he only saw Suchu and Gon Jinshan's nervous expressions, as if they were facing a great enemy. After Gonsong Bai entered, He scanned the living room and saw several medical books arranged neatly on the table. He secretly shook his head. Too neat. The order of the medical books was obviously arranged randomly. If they were read every day, the depth of the medical books would definitely have some pattern. Moreover, his granddaughter and grandson's faces were pale, as if their blood wasn't flowing well. They were a bit too nervous. After reading a lot of books, one's heart would naturally have a gully. If they had strength and confidence, then they would naturally have a calm attitude, just like Jing Yunzhao. Gan Jinshan's gaze swept past Jing Yunzhao, but he snorted disdainfully. This girl was really ignorant and fearless. She probably felt that she wasn't Grandpa's biological granddaughter, so she wasn't afraid of this kind of exam. However, when she returned and scored a 0, she would know that Grandpa absolutely wouldn't allow anyone to fool him in the field of medical skills. You all sit down. Gan Songbai sat across from the three of them and said. He took out a form in his hand. Jing Yunzhao glanced at it. It should be used to record the three's results. Grandpa, recently the homework has been really heavy. Don't make it too difficult. Moreover, it's cousin's first time taking the exam. She hasn't even learned medical skills. You should at least give her some face, right? Suchu winked at her grandpa and pleaded. Gan Songbai's old face unconsciously moved. His beard curled up, but he didn't say the words in his heart. Hasn't learned medical skills? Jing Yunzhao had a master who was more powerful than him behind her. Looking at his grandson's look of disdain for Jing Yunzhao, Gan Songbai helplessly shook his head. Who was the real deal? Only after a competition would they know. I believe in your Yunzhao girl's strength. So this time the exam will be on medicine, medicinal properties, and case studies. Gan Songbai didn't leave any face. When Gan Jinshan and Suchu heard this, they became even more restless. Grandpa, didn't we only test the knowledge of medicinal herbs before? Why is it so difficult this time? The Gan family was considered to have a long history of medicine, but the two of them were not very interested in it. Therefore, they did not have much ability in the field of medicine. Even after studying for 10 years, they only knew the basic knowledge of pharmacology. Every time they took an exam, they had to guess the questions based on Old Man Gan's thoughts. But this time, wasn't the things being tested a little too broad? Especially when there were so many cases. Who knew which one the old man would mention? When I was your age, I could already try to write prescriptions. You guys, on the other hand, haven't even learned the basics. The old man snorted. All right, the exam starts now. Don't talk too much. Jing Yunzhao pursed his lips and held a pen and paper in his hand, ready to answer at any time. The first piece of spirit jade had been completely integrated yesterday, so the basics were definitely not a problem. Moreover, with the addition of the second piece in his mind, his knowledge reserve was a lot more complete. Don't look at how there were 99 spirit jade trees. In reality, it was all-encompassing. There was health preservation, food therapy, and martial arts. In reality, it was all the knowledge and memories of the old senior from the past 300 years. It seemed like she was absorbing them piece by piece, but these things were directly passed down and forcefully stuffed into her mind. Moreover, the contents of that piece of spirit jade was actually more than the medical knowledge of some average young doctors. It was just that Jing Yunzhao had never studied medicine before and had never interacted with other people. She still carefully thought that she was just a beginner. Chapter 78. Most of the national healers had studied for decades, so Jing Yunzhao's humble attitude was normal. Everything in the spirit jade couldn't be underestimated. If she were to extract everything from her brain and memorize it word by word, she would need more than 10 years to comprehend a single piece. Jing Yunzhao was very lucky. The things that the senior left behind could be directly absorbed into her brain and changed her life. The first test is to test your eyesight, Gan Songbai said concisely. He took out 3 different photos from his chest and placed them in front of the 3 people. The photo in front of Jing Yunzhao was of a woman in her 40s. Her face was full of wrinkles, and her eyes didn't have much spirit. From a medical point of view, Jing Yunzhao frowned. The knowledge that she had absorbed naturally appeared in her mind. She couldn't help but narrate. This woman's eyes don't have any spirit. The whites of her eyes are yellow. It's like there's a yellow substance attached to the whites of her eyes. It should be a bile metabolism disorder or bile leakage. It's commonly seen in acute jaundice, infectious hepatitis, gallbladder, bile duct inflammation, calculus, roundworms, tumors, etc. As for the specific situation, it's a bit arbitrary to rely on a photo. This woman's age isn't young. After reaching middle age, it's normal for the whites of her eyes to bulge with yellow spots. Gonsong Bai pretended to ponder and asked in a low voice. Jing Yunjiao shook her head. If it's due to age, the yellow spots caused by fat accumulation will be more inclined to the location of the eye fissure. This woman's is obviously more uniform. Also, her skin color is obviously different from normal people. Bile leakage will generally infiltrate the skin, causing the skin to turn yellow. It's still very easy to distinguish. Gonsong Bai listened and nodded. He put a tick on Jing Yunjiao's position on the form in his hand. Gan Jinshan's eyes widened. It's a lie, right? It must be a fluke, or she has a relative or friend who just happened to be sick. It must be like this, no doubt. Gan Jinshan immediately comforted herself. She lowered her head to look at the photo in her hand. It was a very beautiful woman. Her face was slightly red and looked very pleasant. But no matter how you looked at it, you couldn't see anything wrong with her. Staring at the photo, Gan Jinshan blushed. Grandpa couldn't be trying to introduce the beautiful woman in the photo to him, right? No, Grandpa is still very serious. But what is that? Gan Jinshan frowned. After a while, he suddenly raised his head. Grandpa, is she having a fever? Gonsong Bai's old face trembled. How can you tell? As a stubborn old man, Gonsong Bai always spoke in a genteel manner. It was just that he had the temperament of someone who saved the world and was also a national healer, so others couldn't find anything wrong with his words. Instead, they felt respect for him. Right. Ever since he was young, he felt that medical skills were very magical and wanted to be a doctor. However, every time he memorized those strange pharmacology, he couldn't help but feel sleepy. Yunjiao girl, you say it? Gonsong Bai handed the photo to Jing Yunjiao and deliberately said. Jing Yunjiao was stunned. But when she saw Gan Jinshan's unconvinced expression, she couldn't help but feel a trace of evil. She stared at the photo for a while and said, she should have an acute fever. It's not wrong to say that it's a fever, but it shouldn't have anything to do with tuberculosis. Chapter 79. Jing Yunjiao was a man in his 20s in his previous life. Gan Jinshan was only a 16-year-old child. Wasn't it easy to guess what he was thinking? He just thought that the woman in the photo had a serious illness, so he thought that Grandpa Gan's questions were not simple. That was why he mentioned tuberculosis. How can you be sure that it's not related? What if a normal person's complexion should be slightly yellow, rosy, and lustrous, but this girl's complexion is flushed? Something is obviously wrong. Look at her hair. It's tied up beautifully. Although her clothes are thick, they match beautifully. This kind of girl cares a lot about her appearance, so she used makeup to cover up the sores on her lips that aren't too serious. However, it doesn't mean that they don't exist. If you look closely at the skin color of her lips, you'll find that there's something different about her. Moreover, she's wearing a lot of clothes to cover up the rashes on her body. You'll know if you look a little below her neck, you can still see a little of the rashes. Gan Jinshan's face turned red. He was a boy. How could he stare there? Although the other party's clothes were not revealing at all, it was impossible to look at the flesh exposed at the edge of the clothes. Also, tuberculosis usually shows red cheekbones on both sides, especially in the afternoon. If you want to confirm the diagnosis, you need to know if the other party has any other discomfort. Jing Yunjiao added another sentence. When Jing Yunjiao finished, Gan Jinshan already wanted to find a hole to hide in, but he refused to admit that it was shameful. He pretended not to care and said, I thought too much about this question. Chu, it's your turn to answer. Su Chu glared at her cousin and looked at Grandpa Gan nervously. She pointed to the photo in her hand and whispered, this person's chest is cylindrical. The front and bottom of the rib arch is inclined upwards, and the intercostal space is widened. It is mostly seen in patients with bronchial asthma, chronic bronchitis, and other emphysema. After that, Su Chu looked at Grandpa Gan's serious face and was about to cry. It can't be wrong, right? Grandpa Gan looked so scary Grandpa Gon's eyes were still faint, which made Suchu even more uneasy. She carefully watched him write on the form. When the red pen outlined the outline, she suddenly jumped up. Great! I got it right. Woo-woo, this is too difficult. Luckily, Suchu was halfway through her sentence when she suddenly realized that something was wrong. She immediately changed her words. Luckily, I study hard. Yesterday, he had glanced at this question in the book. At that time, he was bored and looked at the cylindrical chest in the book. He was stunned for a while. Otherwise, who would remember such a remote thing? No matter what, he had answered the question correctly, and the old man was a little relieved. However, his expression towards his own grandson, Gon Jinchun, was not so kind. Even Gon Jinchun himself could not sit still. After all, his two younger sisters had done better than him. No matter what, he would lose face. The second question: write down the medicinal properties of these 100 kinds of medicinal herbs. The old man took out 3 test papers from the bag and said, competing in medicinal herbs? Gon Jinchun's eyes lit up. He was an expert in this field. He quickly took the test papers and looked a little more determined. Jing Yunjiao also took the test papers and glanced at them. He already had confidence in his heart. Not to mention the spirit jade, the strange old man, Grandpa Su, gave her tasks every week that were more complicated than this. According to Grandpa Su, if she did not even know the appearance, age, and use of the medicinal herbs, how reliable could the things she made be? Chapter 80. Compared to the first question, the second question was much easier for Gon Jinchun and Suchu. However, Gon Songbei intentionally increased the difficulty, so the 100 herbs on the test paper were not very common, causing the two to rack their brains. However, when the two were only halfway through, they saw Jing Yunjiao put away the pen and handed the test paper back. Gon Jinchun was surprised. Finished again? Could it be that after holding back for so long, he couldn't write anything and handed in a blank test paper? Thinking like this, he calmed down a bit and continued to answer the questions. After another half an hour, he finally finished. However, at this time, Gon Songbei had already finished marking Jing Yunjiao's test paper. He saw the clean words neatly arranged on the paper. Grandpa Gon didn't leave any marks, but instead filled in the corresponding form with 100. Gon Jinchun's eyes almost popped out. Almost instantly, he snatched Jing Yunjiao's test paper and looked at it clearly from top to bottom. How did you answer it? These herbs are very rare. Gon Jinchun didn't care about his face and asked with a face full of surprise. Jing Yunjiao shrugged his shoulders. I learned it before. She had the space cheating device, 5 times the time. Usually, she would rest in the space at night. 1 night was equivalent to 2 days in the outside world. It didn't seem long, but if she tried hard to memorize, her efficiency would be much higher than others. Jing Yunjiao's handwriting was delicate and handsome. The tip of the pen was sharp and unrestrained without losing its firmness. It was pleasing to the eye. In her previous life, her handwriting wasn't that good, but after she dropped out of school, she had nothing to do at night. She would secretly practice to relieve the unwillingness in her heart. Also, when she was in prison, her mind was almost completely focused on her handwriting. Therefore, her handwriting looked somewhat wild and unrestrained. It could be considered her own style. If Gon Jinchun's mood was disdain a moment ago, then at this moment, it had completely turned into depression. He studied medicine from elementary school until now. His medical skills were still half-baked. Unexpectedly, even Jing Yunjiao couldn't compare to him. Grandpa, you don't need to take the test anymore. I admit defeat. After speaking, he directly got up and returned to the house. Pung. He closed the door. This brat has a temper. Gon Songbei stroked his beard. Although he said that, his heart was incomparably happy. Yunjiao girl, accompany your grandfather to see a doctor on Sunday. The basics are important, but experience is even more important. You're still young. Take this opportunity to learn more. Only then will your skills grow faster. I understand, Grandpa. Jing Yunjiao was very cooperative. She had a strong interest in medicine. Since the old man was giving her an opportunity, she naturally had to cherish it. The old man's goal for this exam was to deal a blow to his grandson and not let him be arrogant and complacent. Now that he had achieved his goal, he only lectured him a little. That night, Gan Jinchen practically couldn't sleep for the entire night. Whenever he thought about how he looked down on Jing Yunjiao recently, he would feel his face burning with pain. He couldn't explain what he was feeling in his heart. As for his cousin Suchu, it was even more exaggerated. She had practically listed Jing Yunjiao as her idol. When she opened the door early in the morning, Jing Yunjiao suddenly realized that Gan Jinchen, who had always left early, was actually moving slowly. His eyes still looked as if he couldn't contain her, but his expression was a little strange. Let's go to school together. We can check each other's homework on the way. Gan Jinchen braced himself. With a face full of arrogance, his eyes looked elsewhere. His attitude was simply as if he was doing a favor. Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. Her grades were first in the entire school. The degree of perfection of her homework was comparable to a textbook. Every time the teacher marked her homework, they would just sweep through it and use it as a model. Did she still need to check it? However, since the little wimp already said it, Jing Yunjiao still gave him face. Okay. At this moment, Gan Jinchen still didn't know that he was looking for trouble again. Chapter 81. Jing Yunjiao's homework was written very neatly, as if it had been engraved on. There wasn't a single mistake in it from beginning to end. Gan Jinchen was dumbfounded. His grades were one of the best in school, but there were a few questions in Jing Yunjiao's homework that he didn't know how to answer. On the other hand, Jing Yunjiao had already picked out 3 mistakes before he even reached the school gate. Seeing that he was confused, she even explained it to him, causing him to blush. He always thought that Jing Yunjiao's reputation as the school's #1 was undeserved. After all, it was only half a semester into the first year of high school, and they were still competing in basic skills. In the past, when the teachers privately praised Jing Yunjiao, he would snort in disdain. But from last night until today, her grades made it impossible for anyone to refute. Seeing Gan Jinchen's embarrassed look, Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips and smiled. She didn't have any intention of showing off. She was never a genius in her studies. In her previous life, in order to gain the praise of her parents, she studied until late at night. The amount of time she slept could be counted on one hand. In addition, no one paid attention to her, so she had a lot of free time. Almost all of it was used on her homework. Under these circumstances, it was natural for her to get first place. And in this life, it was the same. She had never felt any sense of superiority because of her rebirth. Jing Yunjiao was tall and thin, and Gan Jinchen was also one of the top 10 school hunks in school. His appearance was clean and bright, and his smile was gentle and shy. In addition to the little lowly Suchu, the 3 of them attracted a lot of attention as soon as they entered the school gate. Jing Yunjiao, I have underestimated you in the past, and I apologize. But I want to ask you something. People say that you have a lot of boyfriends outside. Is that true? Gan Jinchen couldn't help but ask as they parted ways. He didn't have a good impression of Jing Yunjiao because of this. Suchu had a simple personality, and if Jing Yunjiao was involved with those messy people outside, it would inevitably affect his cousin. Jing Yunjiao frowned, and a trace of coldness flashed across his fair face. Does it matter? When everyone spoke ill of her, they thought it was just a small matter. Sometimes, she even forgot that she was the ugly person that others were talking about. How is it not related? Gan Jinchen's face immediately turned serious. I have nothing against you, but if the rumors are true, I hope you can be more careful when you interact with Suchu. Don't deliberately affect her. But if it's false, you should make it clear to everyone. How can your reputation be tarnished like this? What if it's fake? It's not like I haven't clarified it before. What's the point? Jing Yunjiao said casually. He grabbed his bag and turned to leave. After clarifying the old rumors, new ones would quickly appear. Even if Qiao Hongye didn't play tricks behind the scenes, as long as she was involved in some troublesome matters, the words outside would immediately change. This was a habit that had developed over a long period of time. Just like before, when the school helped her clarify the matter of her being harassed by those hooligans, the students' attitude towards her changed quite a bit. But when the matter with Lu Jia's cousin came out, they immediately avoided her like snakes and scorpions. And then there was the matter with Yang Tiantian a few days ago. Even if it wasn't her fault, there would always be people who linked it to her. Recently, there were people who said that she was a jinx behind her back. It wasn't that she didn't know. She nimbly turned around, causing a trace of disappointment to flash through Gon Jinshin's heart. But he also felt that he didn't say anything wrong. He pouted and returned to his class. Sis, you just went to school with Gon Jinshin? Jing Yunzhao hadn't even stepped through the door when his arm was pulled over. When he looked over, it was Qiao Hongye's gentle and sensible face. Chapter 82. Qiao Hongye had the appearance of a typical pretty daughter from a humble family. Her features were gentle, unlike Jing Yunzhao's sharp and awe-inspiring look. She wasn't very tall either. Although she looked a little fatter than Jing Yunzhao, she still had a normal figure. When she spoke slowly and softly, making her especially lovable. It could be said that the reason why Qiao Hongye was so famous in this school wasn't because of her second-place grades, nor was it because of her outstanding looks, but because of her temperament. When she was quiet, she was gentle and pleasant. When she was happy, she was shy and cute. When she was wronged, she was lovely and moving. She could always send a look of affection to others with her eyes. Of course, whenever she was alone with Qiao Hongye's elegant appearance would be somewhat broken. Jing Yunzhao also didn't know why this girl who grew up with her hated her so much. She had never fought with Qiao Hongye for anything in the Qiao family. At this moment, Qiao Hongye's gaze was gentle. After she pulled Jing Yunzhao over, she had a frightened and cautious attitude, as if Jing Yunzhao was bullying her. Is something the matter? Jing Yunzhao's expression was cold and indifferent. She really couldn't warm up to Qiao Hongye. Qiao Hongye bit her lips. It's nothing. It's just that I'm curious. Sister, why are you going to school with Gon Jinshin? Previously, when she saw Jing Yunzhao and Suchu getting close, she already didn't understand it. She didn't know if Jing Yunzhao had hooked up with Gon Jinshin through that silly girl Suchu. Jing Yunzhao found it funny. She reached out and pulled her arm out. Who I go to school with doesn't seem to have anything to do with you, right? There were so many inexplicable people in this world. A trace of embarrassment flashed across Qiao Hongye's face. She then pouted. Sister, aren't I just worried about you? Are you in a relationship? I heard that Gon Jinshin's father is a doctor and his mother is a businesswoman. His family can be considered to be quite rich. Most importantly, Gon Jinshin was good-looking, had good grades, and had one of the best temperaments in school. Qiao Hongye and Gon Jinshin naturally knew each other. There were only 2 people from the first year who were elected to the student council, and they were Qiao Hongye and Gon Jinshin. It was early in the morning, and there were people walking in and out of the classroom entrance. Qiao Hongye's voice was pleasant to the ears, so it naturally attracted the attention of others. Upon hearing this, many girls also stopped in their tracks and immediately joined in on the fun. Jing Yunzhao, are you dating Gon Jinshin? Is that true? A girl asked. Jing Yunzhao's face darkened. Qiao Hongye, is your brain filled with cement? I just happened to bump into Suchu and Gon Jinshin on the way. How can you say that we're dating? Jing Yunzhao shouted coldly. However, Qiao Hongye had a look of indifference, as if Jing Yunzhao's words were a joke. Aya, sister, it's all my fault for accidentally spilling the beans. I'm sorry. Okay, I won't talk nonsense anymore. Qiao Hongye deliberately winked. Her words made it seem as if it was true. This wasn't the first time such a scene had happened. Pretending to be clever and obedient was Qiao Hongye's best method. Countless similar scenes suddenly flashed through Jing Yunzhao's mind. Her tightly shut mouth slowly curved into a mocking smile. She looked at the disgusting girl in front of her and directly raised her hand to slap her. The sound of the slap shocked everyone in the surroundings. Qiao Hongye was also stunned. Jing Yunzhao actually dared to hit her? What right did she have to hit her? What right did she have? She was just a bastard who grew up under her family's charity. Chapter 83. Jing Yunzhao swung her hand, her sinister appearance somewhat frightening. Her lips curled into a cold smile as she squeezed out the words from between her teeth. I'm really sorry. I couldn't control myself and slapped you. I'm sorry. I won't be like this in the future. Do you think it's okay? Every time Qiao Hongye finished saying those words, she would have an innocent and apologetic attitude. If she didn't forgive her, It would seem that she was vicious and petty. In addition, she had Yi Qin as her backing in the past, so Qiao Hongye was even more unscrupulous. However, she was no longer the Jing Yunjiao of the past. Qiao Hongye widened her eyes, her tears falling freely. How could you hit me? You can spread rumors everywhere. Why can't I teach you a lesson? My slap will only hurt you for a few minutes. You know very well how much trouble your words will bring me. Qiao Hongye, I've tolerated you in the past, but that doesn't mean that I'll let you do whatever you want in the future. Today is only a slap, but if I hear any bad words coming out of your mouth next time, I won't let you off. After Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, she proudly walked out from the middle of the girls. Her cold back made people feel a sense of fear. Even though they were all of the same age, it was undeniable that everyone felt that Jing Yunjiao was different from them. In the past, Jing Yunjiao gave people the feeling that she could be seen but not touched, forever excluded from the crowd. However, recently, she was cold and silent, but also confident and arrogant. Sometimes her sense of existence was still very low, silently studying and reading in her own world, not caring about the outside world. But sometimes, once her bottom line was touched, she would erupt like a volcano, her eyes filled with hatred and disgust, unreasonably cold. Qiao Hongye was still standing in front of the classroom door. Her lips were red from biting herself, her eyes were slightly swollen, and 2 streams of tears had not stopped. A few girls surrounded her to comfort her, but they didn't know what to say. Say that Jing Yunjiao was unreasonable? But they just told Qiao Hongye not to speak carelessly. After all, dating in school was a serious matter. If the teachers found out, they would also give them serious advice. Say that Jing Yunjiao was too violent? It was a little, but they didn't dare to mention it. Qiao Hongye's pitiful appearance caused many boys to be heartbroken. They wished they could teach Jing Yunjiao a lesson on behalf of Qiao Hongye, especially Jiang Xia, who had just gotten close. The moment he went upstairs and saw Qiao Hongye in such a state, he immediately panicked. Qiao Hongye, why are you crying? Tell me who bullied you. I'll teach him a lesson for you. Qiao Hongye was his goddess. She was usually so gentle and cute when she smiled, but now there was actually someone who didn't have eyes to bully her to this extent. She was crying so hard. Was she beaten up or taken advantage of? Qiao Hongye shook her head repeatedly. She had some impression of Jiang Xia, who was standing in front of her. She knew that he was the class monitor of Class 1. Although he wasn't as famous as Gan Jinqian, he was still very handsome. Many girls liked him. Sometimes, when they saw her, they would greet her and even exchange a few words. Why are you shaking your head? Were you scolded by the teacher? Class hasn't started yet. How could Jiang Xia understand a girl's thoughts? Besides Qiao Hongye, there were many boys and girls who acted as her protectors. When they saw that Qiao Hongye was so aggrieved, they immediately said, "Isn't it Jing Yunjiao from your class?" Just now, Hongye only asked her if she was dating Gan Jinqian, and she actually hit our Hongye. Look at her face. It's all red from the slap. Chapter 84. Jiang Xia's heart skipped a beat. He looked at Qiao Hongye in a daze. Was it Jing Yunjiao who hit him? Aren't they sisters? Even though in Jiang Xia's heart, Jing Yunjiao was very insensible and didn't treat Qiao Hongye well, he had always believed that Jing Yunjiao had received the Qiao family's grace. Even if she was usually estranged from Qiao Hongye, she would still give in to her younger sister. Who would have thought that the truth was the complete opposite? Jiang Xia felt a little uneasy. Ever since he was beaten up by Jing Yunjiao, he had been avoiding Jing Yunjiao like the plague. Why would he take the initiative to provoke her? But now that Qiao Hongye was crying so sadly, his heart clenched. If he didn't find Jing Yunjiao to clarify things, wouldn't Qiao Hongye be very disappointed in him? Jiang Xia's heart was in a dilemma. Qiao Hongye despised this boy to the extreme. She wasn't blind. This person had expressed his friendliness to her several times. It couldn't be just to be a nodding acquaintance. He definitely liked her. To be able to make Jiang Xia, who was liked by so many girls, spend so much effort on her, she naturally felt proud. However, although she was very confident in her own charm, she was extremely disappointed in Jiang Xia. Did those girls who liked Jiang Xia have problems with their eyesight? Although this Jiang Xia was good-looking, he was just an idiot. He didn't even have the ability to stand up for a woman. He couldn't even be considered a man. Calling him trash was more like it. Is your face okay? Jiang Xia held back for a long time and didn't ask the main point. Xiao Hongya's heart felt stifled and she cried even harder. Jiang Xia was flustered. Then why don't I go buy some medicine for you? Xiao Hongya rolled her eyes countless times in her heart. She couldn't wait to throw this idiot down the stairs. Originally, Xiao Hongya thought that someone would be willing to stand up for her, but she didn't expect such a coward to come. Now that she had cried for a while, if she continued crying, other people's criticism of Jing Yunzhao would not increase. Instead, there would be people who would say that she was being pretentious. Acting had to stop at any moment. She could only wipe her tears and prepare to return to work. Xiao Hongya, don't go. I'll take you to the hospital for a checkup. Face is very important to a girl. This was his sweetheart. How could Jiang Xia allow Xiao Hong to leave disheartened? He had made up his mind to console his goddess. Xiao Hongya couldn't help but glare at him. Her emotions were a little restrained, and she instead looked like she was pouting playfully. You don't need to care. Jiang Xia's heart went numb. No, you got injured in front of my class. It's all my fault for not managing my classmates well. I will take responsibility for you. Let's go to the hospital. Look at your swollen face. It won't look good if we leave it like this. As Jiang Xia spoke, that hand of his was not well behaved. He could not help but reach out towards Xiao Hongya's face. As soon as his icy fingertips touched her, Xiao Hongya's eyes widened and she retreated a few steps. Don't touch me. This Jiang Xia must be doing this on purpose. Could it be that he wanted to spread some kind of rumor? Xiao Hongya herself often shot daggers behind people's backs, so she took the initiative to avoid things that could easily spread rumors. Although she had a good relationship with quite a few guys, and there were many who chased after her, she never showed any intimate actions in front of others. Jiang Xia's current actions had clearly touched her bottom line. I mean, my face still hurts a little. Don't touch it. I don't need you to send me to the hospital. Xiao Hongya took a deep breath and restrained herself. Jiang Xia was originally a little self-righteous. At this moment, how could he feel that he had caused trouble for Xiao Hongya? Instead, he felt that Xiao Hongya was too kind and sensible. She must have been so polite because she didn't want to trouble him. Once he thought of sending Xiao Hongya to the hospital, not only could he serve his sweetheart, but he could also get a chance to be alone with her. Jiang Xia's eyes lit up. Chapter 85. Jiang Xia's temper was stubborn and self-centered. Unless he met someone like Jing Yunzhao or Xiao Haiqing, he would definitely do what he set his mind on until the end. Thus, the more Xiao Hongya refused, the more he wanted a yard after getting an inch. Unfortunately, in front of everyone, Xiao Hongya was destined to be unable to be tough. That gentle voice of hers was completely useless. The two of them argued for a while before Jiang Xia simply rushed into the office to help Xiao Hongya apply for a day's leave. Now that things had escalated to this point, Xiao Hongya could only helplessly compromise. However, in her heart, she was cursing Jiang Xia to death. The eyes of the crowd were not blind. Her face was only a little red. If she walked out of the school gates with this face, she was afraid that everyone would think that she was making a mountain out of a molehill. At this moment, Jing Yunzhao could clearly hear the commotion outside. He couldn't help but feel happy. In his previous life, Xiao Hongya wanted Jiang Xia to pursue her crazily. Fortunately, she did not agree. Otherwise, even if he was reborn, he would vomit to death when he saw Jiang Xia's conduct. Furthermore, looking at Xiao Hongya and Jiang Xia, one was self-righteous while the other was hypocritical. They were simply a match made in heaven. Xiao Hongya suffered a loss in silence. Being slapped was one thing, but the matter was left unsettled because she was dragged to the hospital. Not only that, Jiang Xia was always by her side. When they were in the hospital, even the doctor took a few more glances at her, making her feel even more embarrassed. Furthermore, Xiao Hongya used to think that Jiang Xia's character was not bad. However, on the way here today, he was being all over her. Although it was ambiguous, it was not overboard. This made her unable to voice out her bitterness. Furthermore, she was a girl after all. Her strength was not as great as Jiang Xia's. She could not struggle at all. Even the passers-by who saw this pointed at her and said that she had no self-respect at such a young age. However, Jing Yunjiao did not know what happened next. His attention was attracted by a big event that was about to happen. Huaning County was a county with many ancient relics. In his previous life, not long after, an antique dealer bought a piece of porcelain from a worker who didn't know anything about antiques for $1,000. The news was heard by a highly respected old man in Ning City. This old man loved collecting antiques. After appraising it, he discovered that the porcelain was a large blue and white porcelain jar from Ming Hongwu. He actually spent more than $20 million to buy it. After the news spread, Xiao Weimin kept lamenting that it was a pity. That was because the worker often held the blue and white porcelain jar and hawked it near the small market where Xiao Weimin had his breakfast. Not only did he see it with his own eyes, he even mocked the worker for being crazy for money. But later, he found out that an opportunity to make a fortune had fallen from the sky and passed him by. He regretted it so much that he couldn't sleep for a few nights. He mentioned it many times at home. Jing Yunjiao currently had 3 million yuan in savings. It wasn't a small amount, but it wasn't a lot either. Now that she had been reborn, this blue and white porcelain jar had yet to be bought by that foreign antique merchant. How could she let go of such an opportunity? As far as she knew, the worker had been in the market for more than a month. If she had arrived in the morning, she would have met him. Thinking of this, the corners of Jing Yunjiao's eyes carried a hint of a smile. After school that day, she took the bus back to Ningtown. However, by the time she reached her destination, the sky was already dark. She had no choice but to find a small hotel to stay the night and wait until the next morning to go to the small market. Jing Yunjiao's temporary hotel was right next to the small market. Looking down from the window, she could accurately see all the movements in the small market. Therefore, on the second day, Jing Yunjiao didn't go downstairs until the worker showed up with the item. Chapter 86. Jing Yunjiao had heard a lot about this worker from Qiao Weimin in his previous life. According to Qiao Weimin, after the worker sold the blue and white porcelain jar, someone went to find him. The worker was very angry at that time, but he couldn't find the antique dealer and could only keep it in his heart. It wasn't that he regretted the sale, but that he was in urgent need of money when he sold the jar. At that time, he asked for 200,000 yuan. Others thought he was a fool. Later, when the dealer came, he told him that the jar was fake. The merchant had a glib tongue and said a lot of things that the worker couldn't understand, making the worker think that the item in his hand was indeed a fake. In desperation, the merchant showed a sympathetic look and swindled the item with $1,000. After the jar was sold, the worker was very grateful to the dealer, who knew that in less than a month, the jar would be targeted by others and the price would rise to more than 20 million yuan. The worker was honest. He didn't covet the sky-high price, but only wanted his 200,000 yuan. Because of this, Jing Yunjiao didn't feel guilty about stealing the dealer's fortune. After getting closer, Jing Yunjiao stopped in front of the worker. He looked to be in his 50s or 60s. His skin was dark, his face was full of wrinkles, and his eyes seemed to be worried. His hands were holding the blue and white porcelain jar, as if he was afraid that someone would accidentally kick it down. His hands were rough and cracked. At first glance, it was obvious that he had worked hard for many years. His back was slightly bent, and his clothes were covered in a layer of dust. There were 2 shallow pits under his feet, and his shoes were stained with mud. "Uncle, do you want to sell this jar?" Jing Yunjiao asked. As soon as he said that, the people at the nearby breakfast stalls were attracted to him. Old Li had been hugging the large canned food in the small market for a month. There were people who had inquired about it, but when they heard the price, they all flinched. They didn't know much about antiques. They only knew that the jar was old and couldn't hold anything. At most, it could be used as a decoration. If it was a few dozen yuan, they could accept it. 200,000. Only a fool would buy it. However, usually, the people who asked were men above 40 years old. Why did a little girl appear today, moreover? This girl looked familiar. If they weren't mistaken, she should be Qiao Weimin's eldest daughter. They heard that she was kicked out of the family. Was it true? Old Li had a good temper, little girl. My big jar is very expensive. It's useless for you to ask. Why don't you tell me the price first? I like this thing. If the price is right, I'll buy it, Jing Yunjiao said again. Old Li shook his head. This girl was a good person. She probably sympathized with him after seeing that he had been here for a long time. I'm not lying to you. My wife is sick. I'm selling this to raise money for her treatment. It's 200,000 yuan. I won't sell it for a penny less. Old Li touched the big can and was reluctant to part with it. He had dug up this thing when he was young. At that time, no one dared to say anything. He had hidden it for 30 years. He didn't know the origin of this big jar, but he thought that the things in the ground should be good, so he wanted to give it to his son as a family heirloom. But he didn't expect his wife to be sick. He had been busy all his life and bought houses for his 2 sons, but he didn't have any assets left. He asked his sons for money, but both of his sons said that they were poor. After a few months of trouble, he still couldn't get half ahead from his sons. He had no choice but to take out the treasure that he had hidden for decades to exchange for money. However, the result also disappointed him. Not to mention these outsiders, even his own son said that he was whimsical and took the broken jar as a treasure. 200,000? Is it? Uncle, when the nearby bank opens, you can accompany me there. I'll transfer the money to you. When Old Li was complaining to his 2 sons, Jing Yunjiao suddenly changed the topic. Chapter 87. Jing Yunjiao's simple words almost caused everyone's jaws to drop. Some people even laughed and pointed at Jing Yunjiao while shaking their heads. In the past, they had heard Xiao Weiman say that this girl was insensible. Now that they saw it, it was indeed the case. Little girl, it's not 200,000 hell coins. Someone laughed loudly. Old Li hugged the big jar and refused to let go. He also felt a little embarrassed. Although he was honest, he couldn't be bullied by anyone, right? If the person in front of him wasn't a little girl, he would have reprimanded her. Jing Yunjiao ignored the person who mocked her. She took out a stack of paper from her bag and said, "If you find it troublesome to transfer money, I can also pay in cash. The money is all here. Can I take it away?" Originally, she thought that it would be safer to transfer money. After all, there were many people here. It was more or less dangerous to let this uncle carry such a large sum of money around. Real money? Instantly, the person who was mocking her stood up and almost choked on the bun in his mouth. Jing Yunjiao opened the stack of paper. There were 20 stacks of money neatly arranged inside. As if she was afraid that the other person would think that it was fake, she simply put it in the person's arms and held the jar in her hand, allowing the other person to inspect it. Although Old Li sold it for 200,000, he was dumbfounded when he actually sold it. The stack of red old people's notes in front of him made his eyes turn red. He trembled as he touched it. Every time he confirmed that it was real money, he felt that there was more hope for his wife's illness. However, when he recovered from his shock, he remembered that the owner of the 200,000 was a little girl. He sighed inwardly and said, "Although I lack money, I can't just take other people's money. Little girl, I'm afraid your parents don't know. Uncle, don't worry. I have a clear source of the money. Moreover, I don't have parents. I can make my own decisions with my own money," Jing Yunjiao said. Really? Old Li still didn't believe her. There are quite a few people in this small market who know me. You can ask around and you'll know. She had clearly heard the whispers of the people just now. When he said that, many people nodded doubtfully. Old Li, since the lady has good intentions, you should accept the money. She used to be from the Chow family, but she's not their biological child. Later on, Xiao Weiman chased her out of the house. Now, she's living on her own. This money definitely has nothing to do with Xiao Weiman. The person who spoke had a good relationship with Old Li and knew about his family's situation. Jing Yunjiao felt a chill in his heart when he heard the words of being chased out of the house. Xiao Weiman was a person who cared a lot about his face. He was afraid that he had deliberately said those words for others to hear. Then I'll really take it? Old Li asked carefully. Jing Yunjiao nodded. Uncle, I heard that your wife is sick. Can I ask about her condition? I don't know much about those medical terms. I only know that my wife often has headaches. Not only does she feel dizzy every day, she can't sleep at night. The doctor doesn't recommend that she undergo surgery, so she usually relies on some medicine. However, the medicine is too expensive. If she doesn't take it, it will relapse and worsen. I have no other choice now. This 200,000 is barely enough to keep her stable for a period of time. Old Li's face was gloomy as he sighed. Jing Yunzhao frowned slightly and nodded. She took out a piece of paper and wrote down Grandpa Gon's phone number. She wanted to say her name, but at her age, this person most likely wouldn't believe her. This is a doctor I know. If you need help, you can ask him for help. Jing Yunzhao. You little bitch. How dare you hide so much money behind my back? Before he could finish speaking, a person rushed over from not far away. He was still 10 meters away, but he was already cursing. Chapter 88. Xiao Weimin was wearing a jacket and slippers. His suit pants were wrinkled and his belt was not buckled. His face was oily, his short hair was like a bird's nest, and his beard was unshaven. This image shocked everyone who knew him. Although Xiao Weimin was idle at home every day, he had always treated himself as a major shareholder. Every time he went out, he would tidy himself up and pretend to be profound when he spoke. Unlike today, he was like a hung-over man on the street. Before he even got close to everyone, they could already smell the sour smell on his body. However, others did not know how shocked Xiao Weimin was at this time. He just received a phone call, and someone told him that Jing Yunzhao spent 200,000 to buy Old Li's broken jar. 200,000. How could this wretched girl have so much money? He was clear in his heart that the Qiao family's savings were also in the millions, but all of this money was saved by him. Even if it was his son and daughter, they wouldn't be able to use the money, let alone Jing Yunzhao. The only possibility was that she had swindled her way to get it from the outside. Of course, he did not care about where the money came from. What he cared about was that this money should belong to the Qiao family, but it was given to Old Li. How could this be? Xiao Weimin strode forward and rushed in front of Jing Yunzhao. He reached out to grab the blue and white porcelain jar in her hand. This broken jar is worth 200,000. I'll smash it. However, just as his fingertips felt the coolness of the porcelain shard, Jing Yunzhao moved her body to the side to avoid it. Xiao Weimin only felt as if he had tripped over something and fell to the ground with a bang. Old Li was shocked and quickly went forward to support him. However, Xiao Weimin was here for the money. He reached out to grab the oil paper treasure in his arms. Just as his hand touched something, his heart was filled with joy, but Jing Yunzhao pressed it back down. Robbery is punishable by jail time. Jing Yunzhao was expressionless. She secretly squeezed Xiao Weimin's hand, causing Xiao Weimin to howl. Unlucky girl, do you want to squeeze me to death? Let go. Xiao Weimin gritted his teeth in pain. He was even more shocked. He didn't know that Jing Yunzhao had such great strength. He always felt that his bones were about to be crushed. However, on the surface, Jing Yunzhao's hands were slender, long, and fair. No one would believe that such a pair of hands could cause bone pain. Jing Yunzhao wasn't as obedient as Xiao Weimin thought. The side of his hand pressed hard against Xiao Weimin's wrist. Xiao Weimin pulled back in pain. Jing Yunzhao then stuffed the oily paper treasure back into Old Li's arms and pulled him back. Uncle, you have to keep an eye on this money. We've already made a deal, so this money is now yours. If someone tries to steal it from you, it's only right for you to report it to the police. This amount isn't small either. If you're sentenced, you'll have to spend quite a few years in jail. Jing Yunzhao threatened. Xiao Weimin was so angry that he wanted to swallow Jing Yunzhao alive. How can the money be his? It's mine. Xiao Weimin immediately shouted. When Jing Yunzhao heard this, she didn't get angry. Instead, she laughed. Yours? Are you sure you're not joking with me? The things she used in the past, the money she spent, which one of them wasn't earned by herself? Even if she really owed them, she had already paid them back after working for so many years in her previous life. How is it not mine? I can see now that you're an ungrateful wretch. Let everyone hear it. How much have I spent on your food, drink, and education all these years? It's fine if you don't know how to repay kindness, but you're still using your family's money to give to outsiders. Chapter 89. Xiao Weimin said confidently, as if he felt that he had suffered a lot in order to raise Jing Yunzhao. That sincere look of his was somewhat intimidating. You said you paid for my schooling? Okay, Then let's count. May I ask which year you paid my tuition fees for me? Don't tell me it was 8 or 9 years ago. Jing Yunzhao asked with a smile in her eyes. Xiao Weiman was stunned. He wanted to refute, but he suddenly realized that apart from spending a portion of Jing Yunzhao's money during the first 3 years of primary school, he had never cared for her again. That's still raising you. Xiao Weiman still didn't feel that he had done anything wrong. He paused and said, even if it's water or a meal, it's still a favor, isn't it? So that's also considered a favor. Jing Yunzhao's mouth curved, her eyes carrying an indescribable meaning. Since that's the case, then I'll be frank. If I remember correctly, I already knew how to do laundry and cook before I learned how to write. From the day I learned how to do it until the day I left the Qiao family. All these years, if I didn't do it well, I would be beaten. But if I did it well, it's only natural. One year, I ruined Xiao Hongye's favorite floral dress by washing it. You punished me by making me kneel on the balcony for an entire night. I fainted from a fever, but you woke me up with a basin of cold water and made me sick for a week. If it weren't for a neighbor who secretly gave me medicine, I might not even be alive now. To be exact, you raised me for 9 years, of which you paid for 3 years of my schooling. However, I was the Qiao family's old maid for nearly 10 years. I was beaten and scolded for more than 10 years, and I almost never had enough to eat. Oh right, there's one thing I forgot to mention. Jing Yunzhao's voice was as light as dust. There should be some scars on my body. I don't know if I can sue you for child abuse in the past. Xiao Weiman and Yi Qin used to care about their face and were afraid of outsiders gossiping, so most of the time, they only let her suffer some superficial wounds that would heal after a few minutes of pain. However, when she was young, she wasn't convinced and made a fuss a few times, which angered Xiao Weiman. Xiao Weiman burned a few cigarette scars on her arm, and once kicked her leg, causing her to kneel with a knee full of glass shards. Even now, these scars were still a little shocking to look at. Hearing this, Xiao Weiman's expression changed. That's because you were naughty when you were young. Xiao Weiman immediately denied. Jing Yunzhao gave him a knowing look and glanced at him with disdain. Whether I did it or not, we all know in our hearts. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. If you insist on going against me, then I can only work hard to find evidence. The corners of Xiao Weiman's mouth twitched. He was furious. Why are you so insensible? I'm your father. Don't, Mr. Xiao. You're not even my stepfather, let alone my biological father. In order to ensure my happiness, didn't the leaders of the town and the school happily decide to separate me? You said outside that you kicked me out of the house, and I won't argue with you. But since we have nothing to do with each other anymore, please don't rush for money when you see it. Jing Yunzhao didn't give him face and directly told him the truth. As soon as she said this, everyone understood. It turned out that Xiao Weiman didn't kick Jing Yunzhao out of the house, but that the school found out about Xiao Weiman's abuse of his daughter. To be precise, the Qiao family was the one that was kicked out. The town was only so big, and everyone had heard a little about some things. It was no secret that the Qiao family was biased towards their children, but they didn't expect it to be so serious. Looking at Jing Yunzhao, she was so thin that she looked like she could be blown away by a gust of wind. It wasn't unbelievable that she didn't eat enough in the past. Chapter 90. The people in this small town were simple and honest. If Xiao Weiman was really just simply educating his children, no one would think that there was anything wrong with it. However, when things developed to the extent of abuse, almost no one could understand. Although she wasn't his biological daughter, how old was this little girl? How could he bear to do it? Old Xiao, this is your fault. If this girl's biological parents come looking for you, how are you going to explain it to them? Someone immediately said with dissatisfaction. If their daughter had been ordered around by someone from a young age, they would fight for justice even if it meant risking their lives. Although the kindness of raising a child was greater than the heavens, how could Xiao Weiman's actions be considered as raising a child? It was more like torture. Xiao Weiman didn't expect Jing Yunzhao to be so eloquent. With just a few words, she had changed the way others looked at him. He immediately changed the topic. Don't listen to this girl's nonsense. If she was sensible, would I have hit her? Also, she's just a 15-year-old girl, but she took out 200,000 yuan in one go. If this money wasn't stolen, then it must have been earned through improper means. 200,000 yuan. The small factory he ran with others was profitable, but the money he received every year was probably less than this amount. Jing Yunzhao didn't say much. She reached into her bag and took out a ginseng. With a thought, she took out a ginseng from her space. Since you said so, I don't mind explaining it clearly. This is a wild ginseng I dug up by chance. The other one has already been sold. This 200,000 yuan is the money I earned from selling it. You can go to some pharmacies and ask how much this kind of wild ginseng is worth. It'll be clear whether I'm lying or not. The reason why Jing Yunzhao said this was to prevent herself from being entangled with similar troubles in the future. The value of this blue and white porcelain jar wasn't low. If it were to be exposed one day like in her previous life, people would definitely suspect that a child like her wouldn't have so much money to buy it. Rather than letting others spread false rumors, it was better for her to clarify things first. There was a barren mountain in Ningxiang town. Many years ago, it was said that someone had found ginseng there. Her reason was the most reasonable. As soon as the item was taken out, anyone could tell that it was a genuine treasure. Their eyes were fixed on it, especially Qiao Weiman, who subconsciously reached out to take it. Unfortunately, Jing Yunzhao instantly stuffed it back into his bag. "Uncle, can you take the money without worry now?" Jing Yunzhao ignored Qiao Weiman and turned to look at Oldly hurriedly nodded. "Little girl, thank you very much. I don't know where this big can came from, but I don't think it's fake." After that, he glanced at Qiao Weiman and quickly walked to the bank with the money. There were so many people here. It would be bad if the money was robbed. Jing Yunzhao naturally wouldn't stay any longer after obtaining the item. He hugged the blue and white porcelain jar and tried to leave. "Daughter." Qiao Weiman stepped forward and stopped her. "Since you're already here, why don't you go home for a meal?" The hypocritical smile made Jing Yunzhao feel a little nauseous. "We've been together for so many years. What do you mean that I don't understand? If you want ginseng and money, just say it. Who are you putting on an act for? Do you think I'm stupid enough to believe that you're really good to me?" In her previous life, if it wasn't for the fact that he didn't act like an elder and tried to force her to submit, she wouldn't have killed someone by accident. At this moment, Qiao Weiman was extremely close to Jing Yunzhao. He could only smell a whiff of medicinal fragrance. Looking at the fair and clean figure in front of him, he was momentarily dazed. Jing Yunzhao was instantly enraged. She couldn't be more familiar with Qiao Weiman's wretched gaze. "Scram!" she shouted coldly. Her eyes instantly exploded with a chill, as if she wanted to kill the man in front of her again. Chapter 91. Jing Yunzhao's mind flashed with the scene of her killing in her previous life. Her body tensed up and hatred emerged in her mind. However, this emotion didn't last long. The blue and white porcelain jar in her hand was suffused with a chill, which made her slowly calm down. This wasn't her previous life. She wouldn't end up like that. How can you talk to me like that?" This was the first time Qiao Weiman saw Jing Yunzhao's attitude. Her eyes looked like she wanted to eat someone. It actually made him feel a moment of fear. Fear? Jing Yunzhao was just a stinky girl. What could she do to him? What could she do to him? Jing Yunzhao restrained her emotions and glanced at Qiao Weiman with disgust. She walked past him without stopping. Qiao Weiman still wanted to stop her, but Jing Yunzhao waved her hand fiercely. Qiao Weiman's feet instantly became weak and he staggered to the ground. He could only let her walk away with big strides. "You bastard! You dare to touch me? I bet your wings have hardened. You just wait for me. I will make you kneel back and admit your mistake one day. Bitch, if I don't punish you, you'd better not fall into my hands." Looking at Jing Yunzhao's back, Qiao Weiman began to curse behind her. The people behind him were speechless. When Qiao Weiman turned around, they all turned their heads and pretended not to know him. In the past, although Qiao Weiman was a bit arrogant, he looked like a decent person. They didn't expect him to be such a scoundrel. He didn't even let a child go. How could they have a deep relationship with such a person? It was better to stay away from him in the future. What if they were cheated by him? Qiao Weiman caught a chicken but ended up losing the rice used to lure it. Not only did he not get the money, but he was also isolated. This town was only so big. In the blink of an eye, There would be people gossiping behind his back. Xiao Weiman became angrier and angrier at the thought of people pointing at him behind his back. He couldn't stay in this town any longer. That day, he directly went to the county. Jing Yunjiao got on the earliest bus and wasn't late. She also stored the blue and white porcelain jar in her space. It was very safe. When it was close to noon, Xiao Weiman arrived at the school gate. Ever since he caused a ruckus, the security guards took note of him. Now that they saw him, all the security guards rushed over to prevent any accidents. Xiao Weiman was a bully. Compared to before, he was much more polite. Brothers, there was a misunderstanding last time. I'm not here to cause a ruckus. I'm here to look for my daughter. The school has already informed us that you and Jing Yunjiao aren't father and daughter. If you insist on looking for her, that's fine. But you have to do it right under our noses. You also have to explain what's going on first. The security guards were deliberately targeting him. No, my daughter is Qiao Hongye from Class 2. She's my biological daughter. He felt a little embarrassed in his heart. Who would guard against him like he was a thief in the past? It was all because of that wild girl. The security guards looked at him suspiciously and called the teachers to check. After confirming it, they then informed Qiao Hongye to come out and meet him. Seeing that it was almost time for school to end in the afternoon, Qiao Hongye heard that Xiao Weiman was here. Her face didn't look too good. Many students saw her father when he caused a ruckus. If she went out now, wouldn't everyone see her standing with her father when school ended? But Xiao Hongye cared about her face. Seeing the teacher's eager gaze, she stood up politely. She ran to the school gate as if she was escaping. Without saying anything, she dragged Xiao Weiman to a corner where he wasn't too conspicuous. Dad, why are you looking for me in such a hurry? Xiao Hongye's face was sincere. Her attitude was obedient and sensible. Chapter 92. Although the way Xiao Hongye dragged him to hide was a little weird, thinking about Jing Yunjiao's attitude towards him in the morning, Xiao Weiman felt that his biological daughter was the most considerate. This is how a girl should be. Xiao Weiman puffed out a mouthful of smoke and threw the cigarette, but on the ground. Only then did he speak. What's going on with Jing Yunjiao? Xiao Hongye was stunned. What's wrong with sister? Don't call her sister. That bastard is not worthy. Xiao Weiman snorted coldly. Your classes are just separated by a wall. Why don't you tell me if she's doing something? Today, that bastard ran to town with 200,000 to buy old Li's broken jar. 200,000? Xiao Hongye suddenly exclaimed. Impossible. How could she have so much money? Dad, did you give her money before? Almost instantly, Xiao Hongye felt that her parents were too good to Jing Yunjiao. She and Xiao Zizhou were her parents' biological children, but she didn't even know how much savings they had at home. Usually, she would only have a few hundred yuan for living expenses, but Jing Yunjiao actually cheated them of so much money. Was her father stupid? How could he give Jing Yunjiao money? 200,000. It was enough to buy a small house in town. Xiao Hongye's gaze was filled with suspicion, and her expression was very wronged. Xiao Weiman was so angry that he rolled his eyes. That money wasn't from me. She dug up 2 wild ginseng and sold one. I estimate that it should be worth at least 400,000 to 500,000. Otherwise, she wouldn't have used 200,000 to buy a broken jar. When the ginseng was mentioned, Xiao Weiman's heart was very itchy. How could such a good thing fall into Jing Yunjiao's hands? The heavens were too blind. When Xiao Hongye heard that, her thoughts were exactly the same as Xiao Weiman's. The jealousy in her heart was like a raging sea. Her mind was blank and her ears were buzzing, as if someone was laughing at her non-stop. Look, Jing Yunjiao is living a better life after leaving home. She's no longer your family's slave. You can't even count as a finger of hers. How could this be? Xiao Hongye thought in a daze. After a while, she opened her mouth. Dad, did she take out the money at the market? Did the people at the small market know about it? If that was the case, there would be a lot of people laughing behind their back. Xiao Weiman sighed. What a waste of money. If you had informed me earlier, I wouldn't have lost 200,000 for nothing. Dad, why are you still feeling pity for elder sister Ah? She has money, yet she doesn't even use it to show filial piety to you. What she did was wrong. Sorry for her? I'm sorry for myself. This money is mine. I can't let it go. Tell me, where is? What's your routine when you go out? Xiao Weiman asked again. This question was stumped. Although the rumors were like that, she didn't know the actual situation. But now that she thought about it carefully, Xiao Hongye suddenly had some idea. She's been going to school with a girl called Suchu. They're both walking, so she should be living in a neighborhood near the school. Don't go home this week. Find out where she's living and find out the routine of the people living with her. If Dad can bring back the unsold ginseng, I'll send you to the province's dance class. Dad will buy you anything you want, Xiao Weiman said with a burning gaze. Chapter 93. After Xiao Weiman finished explaining everything and left, Xiao Hongye's mood was a little irritable. Originally, she could have gone on a spring outing with her friends this week, but in the end, her good time was ruined because of Jing Yunzhao. Especially when she thought about how Jing Yunzhao spent 200,000 to buy a lousy jar. Her whole person became very depressed. Hongye, why are you unhappy? Could it be that something happened at home? After Xiao Hongye returned to school, she showed a depressed look, which immediately attracted the attention of her small circle. Xiao Hongye pursed her lips and shook her head. That hesitant attitude of wanting to say something actually aroused the protective desire of her surrounding companions. Did Jing Yunzhao say something in front of your father? Someone asked. Everyone around Xiao Hongye knew that Jing Yunzhao was a dove occupying a magpie's nest. She was also a scheming woman who always bullied Xiao Hongye at home. It was just that Xiao Hongye was kind-hearted and endured all the grievances in her heart without saying anything. If it wasn't for Jing Yunzhao affecting her, the school's #1 title would still belong to someone else. Xiao Hongye hurriedly shook her head and said carefully, "It's not like that. Dad is worried about big sister's safety. You guys also know that she ran away from home. We don't even know where she's living now. Our whole family is worried that she'll meet some bad people. We really don't feel at ease. So it's about this matter. If you didn't mention it, I would have almost forgotten. Didn't Jing Yunzhao appear together with Suchu and Gan Jinshan the day before yesterday? Actually, they should be living together. I saw the three of them coming out of Warm Heart Garden. On the way, Jing Yunzhao and Gan Jinshan were talking and laughing. They really know how to seduce people," one of the girls said. Because of Xiao Hongye, the surrounding friends hated Jing Yunzhao to the core. They didn't even dare to believe that there could be such a vicious and evil person in the world. Xiao Hongye was stunned and stifled another wave of anger. Jing Yunzhao really had something going on with Gan Jinshan. As one of the most handsome men in the school, Gan Jinshan received a lot of attention. Both of them were members of the student union, but during this period of time, she didn't see Gan Jinshan give her any special treatment. She originally thought that Gan Jinshan's character was so unreasonable, so she didn't take it to heart. After all, although Gan Jinshan didn't like her, there were many people who liked her. But now that Gan Jinshan and Jing Yunzhao were together, she was somewhat unwilling. How was she inferior to Jing Yunzhao? Why could Gan Jinshan see Jing Yunzhao but not her? Jing Yunzhao was indeed good-looking, but that was clearly a cold and distant face. Shouldn't boys like gentle and cute girls? Xiao Hongye's face paled slightly. The two of them live together? Then there wouldn't be anything, right? It's over. If Dad finds out, he'll be worried to death. Sister is still young. What if? Halfway through her sentence, Xiao Hongye shut her mouth. But the rest of her words were naturally filled in by the others' imaginations. Gan Jinshan was so handsome, how could Jing Yunzhao not take the initiative? They were still so young. What if she got pregnant? Naturally, they ignored Suchu who lived with them. Seeing the other people's expressions change, Xiao Hongye immediately corrected herself. Don't think too much. I just said something wrong in a moment of impulse. If my sister finds out that I thought of her like that, she'll beat me to death. At that moment, the crowd once again linked the word violent to Jing Yunzhao. The crowd immediately fell silent, but their little universe of justice was practically ignited. The effect that Xiao Hongye wanted had obviously been achieved. This kind of rumor always spread very quickly. After lunch, the two people involved in this matter had already heard the news. Gan Jinshan was ashamed and angry. Saying that he made Jing Yunzhao pregnant was too much nonsense. Until now, He had only spoken a few words with Jing Yunzhao. Chapter 94. Gan Jinchen never thought that one day he would remind Jing Yunzhao to pay attention to his reputation, and the next day he would become the male lead of a rumor. Although he didn't like to be too close to girls in the past, at his age, he still had some vanity in his heart and would more or less care about how the opposite sex looked at him. But now, the girls in the class looked at him as if they were looking at a virus. Gan Jinchen, I didn't expect you to be such a person. To think that I used to like you. During class, a girl walked up to Gan Jinchen with red eyes and turned around to leave after saying this sentence, leaving Gan Jinchen stunned on the spot. Most girls in their prime were simple, and there weren't many people like Xiao Hongya who had a twisted mind. Many girls only felt that their beautiful one-sided love was splashed with a layer of disgusting ink, polluting their pure feelings. Gan Jinchen wanted to cry but had no tears. The surrounding gossips came one after another, and it was as if they were going to swallow him whole. Even a guy like him couldn't stand those words, let alone a girl like Jing Yunzhao. After enduring for a period, Gan Jinchen still couldn't control his emotions and directly rushed to Jing Yunzhao's class. Standing at the door of the class, he looked at Jing Yunzhao, who was quietly studying with his head down as if there was no one around. Gan Jinchen suddenly panicked. Before he came, he thought a lot about it, and even thought that Jing Yunzhao would cry bitterly. Who knew that when he arrived, he would find out that it was the opposite. Jing Yunzhao sat in the middle seat in the front, and there were people pointing and talking about dirty things around him. Especially when they found out that he had arrived, there were even some boys behind him who whistled. But Jing Yunzhao was still writing and drawing on his paper. His concentrated look gave him an indescribable feeling. Yunzhao, that brat is coming. Xiao Haiqing nudged Jing Yunzhao and winked. Xiao Haiqing didn't believe this so-called rumor. After all, although Gan Jinchen was good-looking and had a good family background, he was still too young. How could Jing Yunzhao like him? Moreover, he couldn't sit still so quickly because of this rumor. Couldn't he talk about it later? Now that he had appeared at the entrance of their class, it was obvious that he wanted the rumors to become more and more intense. Jing Yunzhao raised his head and frowned. She had experienced too many rumors, and this wasn't the worst one at all, so she was quite calm. He lifted his foot and walked out. His expression was still calm as he said softly, "You're here because of what others said, right? I'm sorry, they should be targeting me. I've implicated you." Gan Jinchen didn't expect Jing Yunzhao to say this. He didn't know many girls, and the one he was most familiar with was his cousin, Suchu. He was sure that if the same thing happened to his cousin, she would definitely cry until her eyes were swollen. Then, with snot and tears, she would complain about those gossipers. She might even ask for a leave of absence, or even transfer schools out of sadness and fear. Jing Yunzhao's attitude clearly didn't seem like a girl's. Did he have a heart? Did he not have any emotions? What's wrong with you? Why would someone hurt you so badly behind your back? Gan Jinchen was very angry and asked subconsciously. He wasn't blaming Jing Yunzhao, but he felt that the person behind this was too sinister. Couldn't Jing Yunzhao be more alert? Jing Yunzhao pursed his lips and thought for a while. I'll take care of this matter, but it might take some time. Don't worry, I guarantee that your reputation won't be affected too much. Xiao Hongya was really too much. This time, it was really hard to tolerate. Chapter 95. Gan Jinchen was stunned. He suddenly realized that his words were a little harsh, so he quickly corrected himself. I'm not targeting you. Gan Jinchen mocked himself as he said this. It was useless to say these things now. Besides, the two of them were as eye-catching as gorillas. He had done more than one impulsive thing. He shouldn't have come looking for Jing Yunzhao. How do you want to deal with it? Gan Jinchen only felt bitterness in his mouth. He didn't trust Jing Yunzhao that much. If she could really deal with these rumors, her reputation wouldn't be so bad, right? You just have to wait and see the results. Jing Yunzhao's words were concise and comprehensive. Her nimble words made people unable to make heads or tails of them. But Gan Jinchen saw her clear and bright eyes and inexplicably felt more at ease, so he could only nod. Before he left, he wanted to comfort Jing Yunzhao a little, But when he saw her expressionless face, he swallowed the words in his mouth and couldn't say anything. How could there be such a strange person in this world? When facing Suchu, Jing Yunjiao was clearly very gentle. Could it be that she hated him? How was it? What did that guy say? As soon as Gan Jinchen left, Xiao Haiqing asked with an arm around his shoulder. Jing Yunjiao's eyes were a little gloomy. Haiqing, I need a few people. Xiao Haiqing looked at Jing Yunjiao's serious attitude and immediately frowned. Tell me, I have a lot of friends outside. What kind of people do you want? Jing Yunjiao asked for people from her, so it couldn't be anyone else other than the hooligans outside. She wasn't considered a rich young lady. Although her family was well off, her mother had passed away less than 3 years ago. Her father remarried and relied on that woman to build up the family business. Now that her career was on the rise, she naturally didn't have time to care about her. Her stepmother didn't treat her badly, but she was left to her own devices. She gave her enough money but didn't let her go home. She made a lot of friends outside, but most of those friends made others feel ashamed, so she never told Jing Yunjiao about these things. Although she didn't say it, Jing Yunjiao knew in her heart. Not only her, but most of the other students also knew that Xiao Haiqing was not to be trifled with. They just didn't dare to say anything bad about her. Forget about the ones you know, just a few hooligans. Just give me their numbers. Don't contact them, Jing Yunjiao said. Since she wanted to do it, she wouldn't leave any evidence that would be used against her and the people around her. Xiao Haiqing nodded in understanding. I do have a suitable candidate in mind, nicknamed Hua Zhe. He's greedy for money, but he's also quite righteous. If he promises something, he'll definitely do it. His trustworthiness isn't bad, but he's more open-minded. To put it bluntly, he's ruthless. As long as you give him enough money, he'll dare to do anything. However, if you cause a huge commotion, he'll definitely send people to investigate your identity. To put it bluntly, it was best not to be too bloody. Jing Yunjiao didn't think of doing anything too outrageous. After all, she had been in prison in her previous life, so she knew what it was like. Now that she didn't have her own strength, she wouldn't put herself in too much danger for such a small matter. What she wanted was to give her a taste of her own medicine. Xiao Hongye ruined her reputation, so she wanted Xiao Hongye to slowly experience the rumors and slanders she had experienced in her previous life. She wanted to take away one of the things she cared about the most. Jing Yunjiao agreed, and Xiao Haiqing left her a phone number. That night, Jing Yunjiao disguised herself and bought an anonymous SIM card. After dialing, a hoarse male voice came through. Hello, is this Hua Zhe? I have a job. Do you want to take it? Jing Yunjiao's voice had a bit of magnetism to it. It wasn't very sharp, and she deliberately lowered her voice. Although it sounded young, one couldn't tell if the person was male or female. Chapter 96. From the other party's voice, Jing Yunjiao could roughly guess that this person should be around 30 years old. He had a bit of a hooligan's temperament. He took a puff of smoke, and the sound of smoke rings could be heard from the other side of the phone. Tell me about your target. Hua Zhe's attitude was leisurely, with a hint of playfulness. Just a female student. I just want you to harass her and take some simple photos. Jing Yunjiao replied. You don't need to go further? Hua Zhe was obviously not interested in this kind of request. It was just a small matter, and probably wouldn't cost much. How could Jing Yunjiao not understand the other party's meaning? Although she had a grudge with Xiao Hongye, if she did what Hua Zhe said, it wouldn't benefit her at all. Thus, she directly rejected. No need. Do as I say. 20,000 down payment. After the deed is done, I'll give you another 30,000. With these words, the other party was stunned for a moment. In the next second, Jing Yunjiao no longer heard the sound of smoking. Okay, send me the target's information via text message. Jing Yunjiao straightforwardly hung up the phone and completed Hua Zhe's request. After receiving the other party's confirmation message, she transferred the money. However, Jing Yunjiao didn't know that at this moment, Hua Zhe was looking at Xiao Hongye's name on the phone with a playful expression. His gaze was playful, and his mouth was making tiska sounds. Brother Hua is so happy. There's a good job. The man beside him leaned over and stretched his head out to take a look. He was also amused. Yo, isn't this Chao Xing's little girlfriend? Chao Xing, that fellow, has been hiding for a long time. If it weren't for morality, we would have found this little girl long ago. What, are you going to break your vow now? Although they had done many immoral things, for the sake of safety and for the sake of their conscience, they rarely laid their hands on students unless someone offered a high price. However, Chao Xing had repeatedly made a move because of this Chao Hongye. Later on, he even brought a few of his brothers to the school gate to threaten a female student. If he had succeeded, it would have been fine. Not only would he have lost his life and money, he even sent his brothers to prison. And Chao Xing had also gone into hiding. If it weren't for his property being controlled, that person would have long run away. What vow? This is the employer's target. 50,000 just to harass her and take some photos. Only a fool wouldn't accept it. Huaze rolled his eyes at the other party. We'll take action on Monday morning. This brat treats us brothers like mules. We'll take this opportunity to teach her a lesson. At this moment, in a small hotel, Chao Hongye sneezed violently. Today was Friday, the time to go home and relax, but because of Chao Weiman's request, she stayed in the county town. She was also worried about being noticed by her classmates, so she could only find a small hotel near Wenxin Garden to stay. Bang, bang, bang. Someone suddenly knocked on the door. Chao Hongye's heart skipped a beat. Who would come in the middle of the night? He carefully moved to the door, only to hear a familiar voice from outside. Open the door. It's me. Chao Xing. Why is he here? The hooligans from before had been arrested for obstructing Jing Yunzhao. Only Chao Xing had escaped. She thought that everything would be fine since Chao Xing was no longer around. Why was he still in the county? And even found her? Chao Hongye couldn't help but panic. However, she knew clearly that Chao Xing had a bad temper. If she was provoked, who knew what he would do? Therefore, Chao Hongye still opened the door in a fluster. How did you know I was here? Chao Hongye asked fearfully. Chao Xing's face was unshaven. After entering the room, he immediately closed the door. I've been watching you for a few days. I don't usually have the chance to find you. Fortunately, you didn't come home today. Chao Hongye panicked. A few days? Then she had been followed by Chao Xing all this time? Chapter 97. Chao Hongye felt goosebumps all over her body. She looked at Chao Xing with eyes full of fear. Although she was very familiar with Chao Xing, with such a person secretly watching her, she felt no sense of security. Moreover, he was a little perverted. Why are you looking at me like that? Why don't you think about how I ended up in this state? If I'm caught, do you think you'll still be fine? Chao Xing coldly snorted. The face under his head of yellow hair was completely exposed. Chao Hongye only felt that he was disgusting, but he was right. She really couldn't do anything to Chao Xing. She and Chao Xing were both from Ningxiang town. When she was harassed in middle school, Chao Xing helped her. Since then, they had never broken contact. In the past, she asked Chao Xing to send people to secretly rob Jing Yunzhao or scare her from time to time. Later, when Jing Yunzhao entered high school, she asked Chao Xing to help spread rumors. However, she didn't expect to fall for it this time. Chao Hongye took a deep breath and tried to control her wildly beating heart. What do you want to do? I have no money to spend. Lend me some first. Chao Xing was straightforward. Actually, Chao Xing's looks were not bad, but his face was average. The only thing that left a deep impression was the earrings on his ears and his head of yellow hair. Chao Hongye was so angry that she trembled. I'm still a student. Where would I get money? Chao Hongye was indeed not lying. When Yiqin was still alive, she loved Chao Hongye dearly and never lacked her pocket money. Especially when she was in high school, other people at most got 300 or 400 yuan a month, but she mostly got close to 1,000 yuan a month. But Yiqin was dead. Chao Weiman was a man and didn't care about his children as much as Yiqin. Her living expenses had already dropped to 500 yuan. To others, it was not a small amount, but to Chao Hongye, she couldn't buy many things that she wanted to buy. You have no money? Who are you trying to fool? Although your father isn't a big boss, he at least invested in a small factory. The dividends he receives every year are not small. You're also the little princess of your family. How can you not have money? If you were Jing Yunzhao, I would definitely believe you. But you're Xiao Hongya. Even if you really have no money, you have all kinds of ways to get money. Qiao Xing's face was full of certainty. He had known Xiao Hongya for quite a few years. This girl's schemes were even more formidable than a honeycomb briquette. Xiao Hongya only felt stifled in her chest. She couldn't help but throw a tantrum. Qiao Xing, you think too highly of me. It's not like you don't know that my mother just passed away. My father is so selfish. Why would he care about me? All the money at home has been hidden by Dad. Even if I wanted to steal it, I wouldn't be able to. Anyway, I don't care. Huazei's men are watching my belongings. That guy is more vicious than me. I can't afford to offend him now. If you don't help me now, I can only go to the police station and stay there. At least there will be food and drink, right? Qiao Xing threatened. Xiao Hongya's eyes reddened in anger. That's right. She still couldn't resist. She couldn't let Jing Yunjiao go to the police station. Otherwise, her reputation would be ruined. Although she made Jing Yunjiao a rat, it didn't mean that she was willing to live the same life as him. I do have an idea, as long as you're willing. Xiao Hongya thought for a while. Seeing Qiao Xing raise his head in interest, she gathered her courage and said, Jing Yunjiao is rich? Heh. Xiao Hongya, do you think I'm a fool? Qiao Xing mocked her immediately. If the person he was facing wasn't Xiao Hongya, he would have slapped her directly. I don't. Just listen to me and you'll know. Xiao Hongya struggled with a red face. Chapter 98. Qiao Xing smirked and looked at Xiao Hongya mockingly. He wanted to know what else she could say. Aren't you curious why I'm staying in a hotel instead of going home? It's actually all because of Jing Yunjiao. She dug up 2 wild ginseng in the mountains. My dad said that he saw the ginseng with his own eyes. It's worth at least a few $100,000. Jing Yunjiao even spent $200,000 to buy a broken jar in town. If you don't ask around, you'll know. Now that my dad wants me to find out where she lives, he probably wants to get his hands on the money. Xiao Hongya hurriedly said. She didn't believe that Qiao Xing could resist this temptation. Sure enough, when Qiao Xing heard this, he was both shocked and greedy. This Jing Yunjiao actually got so lucky? How could ginseng be so easy to dig up? There were so many people in Ningxia town who relied on the mountain to make a living, yet no one could find any treasure. Isn't that so? Brother Qiao, you're short of money now, and my dad wants me to investigate Jing Yunjiao, so we can work together. Xiao Hongya casually suggested. I can find out where Jing Yunjiao lives. You can go when there's no one at home. When the time comes, we'll split the benefits in half. Sister Qiao, you're getting more and more shrewd. You don't need to put in much effort to get benefits. You even schemed against your dad. Qiao Xing said in a strange tone. Xiao Hongya pursed her lips. You know my dad. Even if he took Jing Yunjiao's things, he wouldn't really be willing to spend tens of thousands to let me go to the city to learn dancing. She knew very well that her father was just encouraging her. If he really got his hands on it, he might even say that he'd help her keep it for her dowry. At most, he'd give her a few hundred yuan to buy clothes. Rather than that, she might as well work with Qiao Xing. By the time her father found someone, it would already be too late. He couldn't blame her if he couldn't find anything. He would only vent his anger on Jing Yunjiao. Qiao Xing took out a cigarette and took 2 puffs. Through the smoke, he looked at the girl in front of him who was in her prime, but he felt a chill run down his spine. As expected, this daughter took after her father more. Xiao Hongya and Xiao Weiman had the same temperament. It could even be said that the student had surpassed the master. Originally, Qiao Xing still had some thoughts in his heart. After all, he had liked Xiao Hongya since a long time ago. Otherwise, he wouldn't have helped her time and time again. Now that a man and a woman were in the same room, it was a rare opportunity. However, seeing Xiao Hongya in this state, Qiao Xing only felt that all his desires had been extinguished. He didn't want Xiao Hongya to do something terrible to take revenge on him when he went out to charge and break through enemy lines. The two of them spent the night together peacefully. The next morning, there was a woman wearing a mask and a hat, pretending to be doing morning exercises, strolling around the neighborhood. Jing Yunjiao would go to Old Man Guai's place every Saturday to sell medicinal herbs, and it was the same this time. However, as soon as she went downstairs, she felt a strange gaze. After all, she was also a martial artist now. Even if her skills weren't considered high, martial artists were more sensitive to this kind of unusual aura. It was very difficult to ignore it. When she turned her head to look, she saw that the other party had already retracted his gaze and had his back facing her. He was wearing a black overcoat, and his whole body was wrapped up tightly. He looked like he was doing morning exercises, but there was clearly something wrong with his attire and his unsteady footsteps. That figure, it was very familiar. A figure flashed through Jing Yunzhao's mind. The corner of her mouth suddenly pulled up into a smile, and she turned around as if she didn't notice anything wrong. Behind her, Xiao Hongye breathed a sigh of relief. However, at the same time, her eyes revealed traces of excitement as she stared at the building. When she raised her eyes, she saw Suchu hanging clothes on the balcony. Her heart thumped fiercely, and she was extremely excited. Chapter 99. After Xiao Hongye found Jing Yunzhao's residence, how could she be willing to stay in the neighborhood any longer? She hurriedly rushed back to the hotel. Qiao Xing was currently sleeping soundly on the bed. Xiao Hongye's heart was a little uncomfortable, but she still told Qiao Xing what she found. What Xiao Hongye didn't know was that Jing Yunzhao had seen her enter the room with her own eyes. Huazhe, Xiao Hongye is in room 301 of Ru Gue Hotel. I hope your actions will be clean and efficient. Jing Yunzhao left the hotel and directly informed Huazhe. She didn't need to care about the rest. In terms of intelligence, although Xiao Hongye had a lot of ideas, she wasn't bad either. She was just too lazy to use them. Today was a rest day, and Xiao Hongye had spent so much effort to wander around the neighborhood. She was clear as to why she had done so. She could also roughly guess what Xiao Weiman was thinking. Since she knew the enemy as well as herself, she would be letting down Xiao Hongye, who had worked so hard to keep an eye on her, if she didn't invite him into her trap. After the phone call, Jing Yunzhao went to Old Man Su's place as usual. The old man's temper was still strange, but he was kind to her. Especially after he had obtained the ginseng, his mood had obviously improved a lot. Jing Yunzhao's current memory could be said to be photographic. She could memorize many things word for word after reading it a few times. Therefore, the book that Old Man Su gave her didn't pose any difficulty to her. However, when she entered the door this time, there was something different. The hotel owner, Li Xiaoyun, was also there. When Li Xiaoyun saw her, he was similarly surprised. Old Man Su, the little girl you were talking about is her? That's right. Old Man Su nodded. He looked at Jing Yunzhao with a rare look of admiration. He even waved his hand for her to come forward and said to her, "This is the grandson of an old friend of mine. If you have any trouble, you can ask him for help." Li Xiaoyun was even more puzzled. Old Man Su's personality was strict and indifferent. He didn't like to meddle in other people's business, but he had a soft spot for medicinal herbs. He would never owe someone a favor for an unrelated person. However, he had just praised Jing Yunzhao in front of him, saying that she was clever and a genius. He even took the initiative to let him take care of her. Elder Su, what a coincidence. I know her. Li Xiaoyun's pair of peach blossom eyes slightly raised, and the corner of his mouth carried a faintly discernible smile. His entire body gave off an unrestrained feeling, and when he spoke, his voice was as light as a feather, and his voice was seductive. Oh? Su Lao turned his head in surprise and heard Li Xiaoyun explain. She saved someone in my hotel? You also know medicine? Elder Su frowned. Jing Yunzhao nodded. I know a little. Old Man Su tried his best to pout, but he didn't say anything. When he first met this girl, she was a little mysterious. She raised a lot of medicinal herbs, so he wouldn't believe that she didn't have an expert guiding her. To be able to make you think so highly of her, classmate Jing is indeed outstanding. It's just that I wanted to treat her to a meal before, but I didn't expect to be rejected. Because of this, I was sad for a long time. Li Xiaoyun joked. Old Man Su gave a rare smile. Young children don't know how to socialize. Xiaoyun, you don't have to take it to heart. Why don't I send you 2 jars of medicinal wine later as an apology on her behalf? Li Xiaoyun narrowed his eyes. Naturally, he could hear the protectiveness in Old Man Su's words. He smiled and said, Thank you, Elder Su. My grandfather has been thinking about you all day. Jing Yunjiao was a little confused as she watched the old man and the young man talking about Tai Chi. However, she wasn't interested in Li Xiaoyun, so she didn't want to speculate. Jing Yunjiao followed old man Su and studied the concoction of medicinal herbs for another day. She didn't leave until night fell. When she arrived at the entrance of the residential area, she didn't go in. Instead, she called Su Chu and Gan Jinshan to come out. Chapter 100. In Su Chu's eyes, Jing Yunjiao was a complete homebody. Normally, she would only go out once on Saturday. After returning home, she would always lock herself in her room. Today's initiative was very rare, so Su Chu agreed without thinking. Although Gan Jinshan was a bit hesitant, he couldn't dissuade his cousin. He also changed his clothes and went downstairs. "Cousin, did the sun rise from the west today? You actually didn't go home to study." Su Chu pulled Jing Yunjiao's arm, her face full of excitement. "Where are we going to play?" Jing Yunjiao smiled. "I'll treat you guys to a meal." The meal wasn't long. They just wanted to see if Xiao Hongye would take the bait. "I just happen to be hungry. Then I want to eat big plate chicken and grilled fish. Let's go to the restaurant at the intersection. Their food is delicious." Su Chu's face was full of greed. She pulled Jing Yunjiao with one hand and Gan Jinshan with the other, and ran towards her favorite food stall. Jing Yunjiao faintly felt that someone was watching from behind. She couldn't help but smile and cooperate with Su Chu without turning her head. "Why did you suddenly think of treating us to a meal?" After ordering, the three of them sat at the table and waited. Gan Jinshan's face was full of suspicion. He felt that Jing Yunjiao's expression was a bit strange. If it was in the past, he might have thought that she was up to no good. However, because of the rumors in the past few days, Gan Jinshan also felt irritated by the strange gazes of others. He actually sympathized with Jing Yunjiao. He even felt that she was simply a weirdo for being able to study peacefully in this kind of environment. He couldn't help but admire her in his heart. One must know that ever since the rumors spread, he didn't hear a single word that the teacher said in class. "I've lived in your house for so long, but I haven't had a formal meal with you guys. Now, let's treat this meal as a celebration of our official meeting. Isn't that good?" Jing Yunjiao said with a smile. Gan Jinshan curled his lips. "You and Chu Chu are the same age. Why do you always speak so seriously? You don't look like a child at all. You look more like my grandfather." Not only were his words similar, but his conduct was also similar to the old man's. He wasn't angry at all. If it weren't for the fact that Jing Yunjiao had the face of a 15 or 16-year-old, he wouldn't have been able to resist treating her as an elder. "Cousin is right." Su Chu tapped her chopsticks and said, "Gan cousin, you're especially cold when you're not smiling. My classmates all say that they feel a sense of distance when they see you. They feel that you're not easy to get along with. You're like a miniature version of the teaching director." Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. "Dean?" The female head of teaching in her school was strict and didn't talk much, but she was definitely good at dealing with students. No matter how she looked at it, she didn't look like her at all. "The dean was probably uglier than you when he was young," Gan Jinshan added. When Su Chu heard this, she immediately laughed and slapped the table. Yes. Luckily, you're pretty, or else you'll be the head of the teaching department in the future. That's why you have to learn how to dress up in the future. Since you're born with such good conditions, why don't you use them? If it weren't for the fact that you don't pay attention to your appearance, then the top of the school beauty list would be set up for you." Jing Yunjiao rolled her eyes. "Are you two going to criticize me?" Hee, it's a rare opportunity. I'm just telling you the opinions of my classmates. Cousin, you'll definitely change, right? In the future, you'll be gentle, you'll smile, and you'll become cute, right? Su Chu winked and looked funny. Jing Yunjiao's lips curled up. She paused and said straightforwardly, "I really won't." This so-called sense of distance wasn't actually aloof. It was just her many years of self-protection. Rather than saying it was aloof, it was more appropriate to say it was cautious. Before her rebirth, her temperament even carried a strong sense of humility. Even now, it was difficult to restrain the habits in her bones. If she suddenly became gentle and cute, wouldn't others be scared to death? Chapter 101. Suchu pouted, her eyes full of resentment. But looking at Jing Yunzhao's cool appearance, her maiden heart was captured after a while. She stuck close to Jing Yunzhao, looking as close as real sisters. There weren't many people at the food stall, so the dishes were served quickly. Not long after, the three people started eating. However, Jing Yunzhao's seat was a bit special. She could see the situation at the entrance of the neighborhood as soon as she raised her eyes. After waiting for half an hour, Jing Yunzhao still didn't see Qiao Hongya's figure. She even thought that she had miscalculated. But when a man smoking a cigarette appeared, Jing Yunzhao's brain suddenly flashed with a sharp pain. It was as if some memories had broken out of the ground. She stood up in a flash. What's wrong? Suchu suspiciously raised her head to look at her. Seeing that her complexion was a bit frightening, her heart thumped. She quickly stood up to support her and said, "Cousin, your face is so white. Are you feeling unwell?" It wasn't just white. That gaze seemed to want to kill someone. Suchu's courage wasn't big, so she was naturally scared. Jing Yunzhao opened her dry mouth and said, "I saw an acquaintance." "An acquaintance? A friend?" Gan Jinchen didn't think so much and asked. Jing Yunzhao's mouth curved into a cruel smile. She said to the two people, "Jinchen, Chu, you two wait for me for a while. I have something to do. I'll be back in a while." "No, I'm worried about your current state. I'll go with you. Aren't you going to see a friend? The two of us won't embarrass you," Gan Jinchen said. Jing Yunzhao stared blankly. She discovered that the two people were looking at her with great concern. Her heart relaxed a bit. She thought for a bit and said, then, "Okay." She remembered who the hoodlum that escaped in her previous life and this life was. Chao Xing. In her previous life, Chao Xing had escaped. Although she remembered what he looked like, she was afraid that she could not remember him clearly. Especially since Chao Xing had a common face, it was easy to forget him. Moreover, because she did not call the police, the other hooligans were not arrested. Instead, they dropped out of school and went home to earn money for the Chao family. Chao Xing hadn't appeared in her line of sight for a very long time, but in her past life, the moment she killed Xiao Weiman, Qiao Hongya and a man burst into the room. Qiao Hongya kept on calling her a vixen who seduced her stepfather, and on the other hand, she asked that man to save her. At that time, the man's body blocked her line of sight, so she actually did not see Qiao Weiman's last breath. She had killed someone in self-defense, so the two of them had labeled it as murder. The man who had appeared at that time was Chao Xing. At that time, he had a decent appearance, wore a suit, and had thick black hair. She did not associate him with the hooligan from a few years ago. However, even though they were far apart, she could still see the silhouette clearly. When she looked at the yellow-haired figure, the two figures instantly overlapped. If she were to ask who she hated the most in her previous life, other than Xiao Hongya, there was also this Chao Xing. On one hand, it was because she did not understand why a stranger would want to harm her. He clearly knew that she killed someone in self-defense, but still wanted to use Qiao Weiman as a witness. On the other hand, there were some things that she could not understand in the few years she had spent in prison. At that time, because she had suffered too much from Qiao Weiman, she had bought a dagger and placed it at the bedside for self-defense. If an accident happened, it could also scare Qiao Weiman. Therefore, at that moment, she did not really want to kill anyone. It was only because Qiao Weiman thought that she would not dare to do it that she was forced to, so she stabbed him in the heart. However, her strength in her previous life was different from now. At that time, she was malnourished all year round, so her body was always weak. Basically, there was no way she could kill someone in one blow. Especially after she made her move, Qiao Weiman was obviously still alive. Unfortunately, when Chao Xing tried to save him, Qiao Weiman died. This matter made her suspicious for a long time, but at that time, her will to live had already dissipated. When she thought about it, she always thought that she was dreaming. She was muddle-headed and did not understand until she died. Chapter 102. After being reborn, Jing Yunzhao still had some doubts in her heart. In fact, that feeling of doubt was even stronger than before. Now that she was a medical student, she was even more convinced that she couldn't have killed anyone in her previous life. The cause of Qiao Weiman's death must have been this Qiao Xing, but in the end, these two people pushed the blame onto her. It's just that whether Qiao Hongye knew it was Qiao Xing's doing or not, Jing Yunjiao wasn't clear. At this time, the three of them paid and immediately followed Jing Yunjiao back to the neighborhood. However, after taking 2 steps, Jing Yunjiao saw Qiao Hongye hiding behind a gate. Chu, let's go in through the east gate. Jing Yunjiao pulled Suchu and directly turned around. Jing Yunjiao deliberately walked in the dark to ensure that Qiao Hongye couldn't see her. However, Qiao Hongye wasn't stupid. If it wasn't for Jing Yunjiao being on guard, she might not have discovered where she was. Suchu and Ganjinshun were a bit puzzled, but still followed Jing Yunjiao's instructions. The three of them entered the neighborhood from the east gate. Standing downstairs, they looked into the room and saw a faint light flashing inside. Cousin, did a thief enter our house? Suchu instantly became nervous. This thief was too daring. They only went out for a short while, and he actually entered their house to steal. Chu, let's go find the property management. Ganjinshin wasn't an impulsive fool. He didn't think of rushing in. Although they had some money in their house, he and Chu were children after all. The total amount was only a few thousand yuan. Chu, you know Qiao Hongye, right? Jing Yunjiao asked. I've seen her before, but I don't really know her. Why? At this time, Jing Yunjiao suddenly mentioned Qiao Hongye, making her a bit confused. Qiao Hongye should be the accomplice. She's currently keeping watch at the entrance of the third alley across from our neighborhood. If you look for the property management, she'll be the first to see you. She'll definitely call the thief inside. At that time, we won't be able to catch him at all. In my opinion, the two of you should just treat it as if you've seen an acquaintance and restrain Qiao Hongye, so that she won't have time to make a call. I'll take care of the thief here and wait for the police to arrive, Jing Yunjiao said. After she said that, Suchu was dumbfounded. Qiao Hongye is an accomplice? It can't be? Although she hadn't interacted with Qiao Hongye before, the other students all said that she was very gentle. How could she be an accomplice? Jing Yunjiao knew that these two people didn't believe him, so he simply said, the acquaintance I just saw is called Qiao Xing. He's a hooligan. Didn't someone block me at the school gate before? 5 of them were caught. Qiao Xing was the leader of those hooligans, but he managed to escape. Upon hearing this, Suchu was even more shocked. She never thought that Qiao Hongye was this kind of person. She didn't have a good impression of Qiao Hongye, but she also didn't have any enmity with her, so she didn't pay much attention to her. However, it was hard to imagine that such a pretty daughter from a humble family would actually hide such a vicious heart. You mean that Qiao Hongye was the one who caused you to be blocked by those hooligans? Ganjinshin also felt that his 3 views had been attacked. He and Qiao Hongye were both members of the student council, so they usually interacted with each other quite often. To be honest, he didn't really like Qiao Hongye. He always felt that her expression when she spoke made him uncomfortable, so he usually maintained a distance from her and never got close to her like other boys. That's right. Other than blocking me, the rumors this time also came from her mouth. Jing Yunjiao said honestly. But why would she find someone to steal our things? There's no benefit to it, right? Suchu was even more puzzled. She found out that I have an expensive ginseng in my hands. When I went out this morning, I saw her observing nearby. That's why I specially invited you guys out tonight. Rather than waiting for the other party to make a surprise move, it's better to create an opportunity and then catch a turtle in a jar. I'm very sorry, but this meal was mixed in with these reasons. Chapter 103. Jing Yunjiao had an apologetic look on his face. Ganjinshin opened his mouth but didn't say anything. No wonder he felt that Jing Yunjiao was absent-minded when he was eating today. It turned out that he was hiding something. She wasn't angry at Jing Yunjiao for such a small matter. She just felt that he was a little too daring. Although it was good to catch a turtle in a jar, the other party was a hooligan boss. He definitely wasn't someone to be trifled with. Fortunately, her idea wasn't wrong. As long as they called the police and caught the culprit, they would be safer. They wouldn't have to worry all day about when the culprit would sneak in and steal. Ganjinshin and Suchu could only follow Jing Yunjiao's instructions and leave the neighborhood. They circled behind Qiao Hongye from the side alley. Seeing Xiao Hongye looking around, Su Chu and Gan Jinshan believed Jing Yunzhao's words even more. They were furious. The world they lived in was relatively simple. They never thought that someone would be so vicious as to bribe hooligans to steal other people's things. Even if she didn't like Jing Yunzhao was still someone who lived under the same roof as her for more than 10 years. You must be Xiao Hongye. What a coincidence. What are you doing here? Su Chu restrained the anger in her heart and squeezed out a smile. She grabbed Xiao Hongye's arm and opened her mouth. Xiao Hongye didn't expect someone to be behind her. She was shocked. When she turned around, she was even more dumbfounded. Why did Su Chu and Gan Jinshan come here? Xiao Hongye wasn't familiar with this area. How could she know that the alleys here were all connected? You guys, why are you here? She clearly saw Jing Yunzhao and the other two leave the neighborhood to eat at the restaurant. Although they came out of the restaurant, they didn't enter the neighborhood but went in the opposite direction. A trace of disgust flashed through Su Chu's eyes. She couldn't maintain her smile any longer and curled her lips. We live in a residential area. It's normal to walk here. But it's really strange for you to look around here at this time. I heard that Jing Yunzhao is staying with you guys. I was worried about her, so I came over to take a look. Xiao Hongye frantically found an excuse. Gan Jinshan's dislike for Xiao Hongye grew even stronger. Come and take a look? Not during the day but at night? Instead of entering the neighborhood, he chose to stay in such a dark corner? If that's the case, why don't you come upstairs with us? Jing Yunzhao is here, Gan Jinshan said deliberately. Xiao Hongye immediately felt a buzzing sound in her head. Jing Yunzhao is at home? Yes, she is usually very obedient. She doesn't like to run around outside at this time. Su Chu pouted. She was angry and happy at the same time. Let's see what else you can say. Xiao Hongye felt that it was over. Chao Xing would definitely be discovered. But the next second, she thought again. There was only Jing Yunzhao at home. How could Chao Xing not be able to deal with her? What she needed to do now was to delay these two and not let them go upstairs. Otherwise, when there were more people, Chao Xing would definitely be caught. With this thought, Xiao Hongye immediately pulled Su Chu's hand back. Su Chu, you must not tell my sister that I came here. She really doesn't like me. If she knows that I secretly came to see her, she will hit me when she sees me. What nonsense are you talking about? My cousin won't hit anyone. I think you are the one with bad intentions. What are you trying to do by always ruining my cousin's reputation? Oh right, our house seems to have been robbed. Since you are so sneaky, that thief must be your relative. But it's okay. My cousin has already called the police. He definitely won't be able to escape. Su Chu couldn't help but say after hearing Xiao Hongye's words. Anyway, the matter was already settled. They were watching. If Xiao Hongye dared to make a call, she would pounce on her and scratch her to death. Humph. Chapter 104. Su Chu blurted out the truth in a moment of impulse. Gan Jinshan could only shake his head helplessly. At this time, Xiao Hongye couldn't do anything. It didn't matter if she knew. Sure enough, when Su Chu finished speaking, Xiao Hongye felt as if she was struck by lightning. You called the police? Xiao Hongye muttered. In an instant, tears welled up in her eyes. She grabbed Su Chu's arm with both hands, not knowing what to do. Her mind was already in a mess. Called the police? That's why Su Chu and the rest came to find her? Were they afraid that she would escape or that she would inform Chao Xing? But how would they know? Xiao Hongye's mind kept replaying what happened today. When the image in her mind stopped at Jing Yunzhao leaving the house in the morning, her face paled. Could it be that Jing Yunzhao had already seen her at that time? That's why he went downstairs with Su Chu and the rest today, and then purposely led them to make a move. Thinking of this, Xiao Hongye shook her head repeatedly in her heart. No way, no way. If that was the case, wouldn't she be an idiot and let Jing Yunzhao play with her? Seeing Xiao Hongye so scared, Su Chu felt a sense of righteousness as if she had done a good deed. Scared? Xiao Hongye, why are you so bad? You actually found someone to steal my cousin's things and even falsely accused her of being pregnant. She could even say something like being pregnant. How vicious. Xiao Hongye bit her lips and instantly shed tears. I didn't. I really came to see my sister. I don't know anything about the thief you're talking about. Oh, right, are you talking about Chao Xing? I just saw him enter the neighborhood. I heard from my friends that Chao Xing is a hooligan who commits all kinds of crimes. When he went in just now, he even threatened me to pretend that I didn't see him. At that time, I was still a little confused. Xiao Hongye's brain worked and immediately found an excuse for herself. If Chao Xing was caught, he would most likely give her up. But she had to leave a way out for herself. So no matter what, she had to clench her teeth and not tell the truth. She kept repeating the lie in her mind, trying to numb herself. It was as if she had really met Chao Xing and he had really scared her. She revealed an extremely terrified expression. Suchu was stunned by Xiao Hongye's acting skills. She had never seen a girl who could be so thick-skinned. It could not even be described as thick-skinned. He was selfish and changed his attitude faster than flipping a book. Gan Jinshin also admitted defeat. He subconsciously pulled his cousin behind him. It was better to stay away from this kind of girl. What if her selfishness was contagious? However, this was bad. Xiao Hongye didn't personally go upstairs to steal anything. Now that she had found such an excuse for herself, the police wouldn't treat her as an accomplice, right? Didn't that mean she had escaped? How cunning. After a while, Jing Yunzhao and the property management team dragged out a person. The police arrived soon after. It was only then that Gan Jinshin relaxed and dragged Xiao Hongye over. When Chao Xing saw Xiao Hongye standing with the others, he immediately went crazy. Slut, were you the one who gave me up? Xiao Hongye, this little slut. She must have purposely arranged this to catch him. Xiao Hongye shrunk her head. Even if she didn't do it, she could only agree. Police uncle, I know him. He's a hooligan who often strolls around our school's entrance. When he went in just now, he saw me and even said that if I called the police, he would kill me. I was scared and didn't dare to call the police, but I was also worried that he would do something bad, so I secretly watched from afar. Chapter 105. Jing Yunzhao narrowed his eyes. He wasn't surprised by Xiao Hongye's reaction. Although Xiao Hongye wasn't old, she had been shrewd since she was young. In addition, she had Xiao Weimin as her role model, which made her even more ruthless. If Xiao Hongye were to lower her head and admit her guilt, Jing Yunzhao would think that there was a problem. However, Xiao Hongye's words made Chao Xing's eyes spit fire. Don't listen to her nonsense. She's helping me keep an eye on him. She even bribed me to help her deal with Jing Yunzhao. Xiao Hongye's tears fell. You. How can you say that? I've clearly only seen you before. I wasn't the one who called the police just now. You can't accuse me wrongly. Police uncle, you must investigate thoroughly. Jing Yunzhao is my sister, and these two people are also my schoolmates. Why would I want to deal with them? Suchu puffed up her cheeks. She was so angry that she stomped her feet. Her little face was red. The police looked at Xiao Hongye crying so sadly. Not only did she look small and delicate, she was also very pitiful and obedient. How could they think that she was lying? She was even more dissatisfied with Chao Xing, this hooligan. This hooligan was too vengeful. This little girl coincidentally got involved, but he actually insisted on making this girl take the blame for him. He was simply harming the flower bud of the motherland. Little girl, don't worry. We won't accuse anyone wrongly. However, you must be careful in the future. It's better to call the police first when you meet such bad people. This way, others won't misunderstand. The police said this and dragged Chao Xing into the police car. Chao Xing's heart was filled with resentment. In this line of work, there weren't many who hadn't entered the palace. However, he had walked right into the trap. What a shame. Xiao Hongye, this slut, dared to lie to him. In order to save time, he first confirmed Jing Yunzhao's room. In these 10 minutes, he had been rummaging through Jing Yunzhao's room. However, he couldn't find the so-called ginseng. He didn't even have a single piece of cash. He was definitely a pauper. This woman deliberately used ginseng to deceive him. As soon as Chao Xing was taken away, Xiao Hongye heaved a sigh of relief. Jing Yunzhao looked at her and suddenly felt that it was funny. Did she think that she could just let Chao Xing be the scapegoat? Smart is smart, but isn't it a bit too whimsical? She had spent a few years in prison in her previous life, so she still had some knowledge of the law. Chao Xing's attempted theft didn't cause any major damage at all. Moreover, there was no one in the house at the time, and he didn't threaten anyone's safety. Under such circumstances, it was basically impossible for him to be sentenced. At most, she would be detained for a period of time. As for the previous case, it was even more impossible. Previously, she didn't understand why Chao Xing was hiding. If the other hooligans dared to expose Chao Xing, they wouldn't have waited until now. As long as Chao Xing refused to admit it and the other perpetrators did not push him out, her testimony would not have a decisive effect without any evidence. In other words, Chao Xing would at most be the target of the police's observation, and he would be out soon. At that time, would Xiao Hongye still be happy? Jing Yunzhao wasn't so kind as to remind Xiao Hongye. He just walked forward and took out the ginseng she was looking for from his bag. Xiao Hongye, let's not beat around the bush. Aren't you looking for this? Unfortunately, I just won't give it to you. Jing Yunzhao deliberately provoked her and said, "It's such a big ginseng. When I go back tonight, I'll stew the whole thing. Its juice is a beauty product. Even if I apply it on my face as a skincare product, I won't let you touch a single bit. Are you satisfied?" You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.